Hey there! Tonight we're going back, way back, but not to Swords and Castles. This time we're heading somewhere wetter, hotter, and far less romanticised. Picture it. You've just been drafted, handed a rifle, and shoved into a floating metal box headed straight for the Pacific. It's 1943, you're 19, and no one's really explained where you're going. Just that there are islands full of jungle, enemies hiding in the trees, and you'll be fine. Spoiler, you won't be. So before we get too deep, take a breath. Get comfy, grab a blanket that doesn't smell like mildew and despair, and maybe turn on a fan for that soft white noise. Though tonight, it'll be standing in for the sound of insects screaming in stereo. As always, feel free to hit like and subscribe, but only if you really mean it. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time you're listening. Now close your eyes, or don't, just try to stay still. Movement attracts bugs. Welcome to the jungle war. Not a video game, not a movie, and definitely not a vacation. You've just been dropped off on an island in the South Pacific. You don't know the name of it, doesn't matter. All of them are hot, all of them are wet, and none of them want you there. The first thing you notice when you step off the landing craft is the smell. It hits you like a punch to the lungs. A thick, heavy stew of rot, sweat, diesel fuel, smoke, and something vaguely organic that might have been alive recently, but definitely isn't anymore. The ground is soft in all the wrong ways. Your boots sink half an inch into mud with every step. It squelches, an actual squelch, like you've stepped into the digestive system of a dying animal, and it never stops. The mud doesn't dry. Not ever. Because it rains. Constantly. Not normal rain either. Not gentle drizzle or a relaxing downpour. This is jungle rain. It falls sideways, upside down, sometimes from the trees themselves. You can be soaked to the bone without a single cloud overhead. Everything is damp. Your gear, your socks, your soul. The humidity sits on your shoulders like a wet dog. Breathing feels like sipping warm soup through your nose. Your shirt sticks to you within 5 minutes of arrival and will never come off clean again. No matter how many times you try to dry it, it will always be a little wet, a little mouldy, and a little worse than yesterday. You itch in places you didn't know existed. Some of that is sweat. Some of it is jungle mites. Some of it you stop asking. Your unit is small. You've got a squad of guys, none of whom you know that well yet. There's a guy from Wisconsin who doesn't talk much, except when he's cursing the weather, which is most of the time. Another from New York, who hasn't shut up since you left the ship. He talks to himself sometimes. You're starting to understand why. The trees are taller than you thought they'd be. Dense. Green in a way that hurts your eyes. The canopy is thick, but not thick enough to block the rain. It just slows it down so it drips on you one droplet at a time, like nature's version of water torture. Light doesn't really make it to the ground. It's a permanent dusk, lit by sunbeams that stab through the leaves like judgmental spotlights. You keep expecting to adjust to it. You don't. There are bugs. Of course there are bugs. But not bugs like you've seen before. These are industrial grade. Mosquitoes that could carry off a small dog. Ants with jaws. Centipedes with legs that make you question your place in the food chain. They bite. They sting. They crawl into your boots while you sleep and die there, just to spite you. You learn to shake everything out before putting it on. Sometimes you forget. You only forget once. You're not here for sightseeing. You're here for island hopping, which is a cute term someone made up to describe trench warfare in tropical hell. Every island you land on is a new maze of thick vegetation, booby traps, and soldiers who've been hiding there for months and know the terrain better than their own families. You're the outsider, the intruder, the one who doesn't belong. You're given a map that looks like it was drawn by someone who's never actually seen a jungle. Landmarks include that big tree ridge and watch out here. Your sergeant tells you to keep your head down and stay in line. You try, but the trail disappears about 10 steps in. Jungle paths don't stay open. The plants grow back overnight. The guy in front of you disappears into the foliage like he was never there. You start following sound instead of sight. The sound, by the way, is a constant buzz. Not just insects. The whole place hums. A low-level drone of life and death and things waiting for you to fall asleep. It's not peaceful. It's aggressive. The jungle is alive and it wants you gone. You can hear it breathing at night. At some point you try to sleep, or something that resembles sleep. You lay down on a bedroll that immediately gets soaked from the ground up. Your helmet is your pillow. Your pack is your blanket. Everything around you is crawling, rustling, moving. You try not to think about it. You try not to think about anything. You stare up at the leaves and pretend they're stars. But they're not. They're just shadows of things that could drop on you at any moment. You don't sleep through the night. Nobody does. You sleep in shifts. Even when it's your turn, you never really relax. Because the enemy moves at night. So do the snakes, and the rats, and the fear. It gets louder when it's quiet. You start to imagine things. A rustle sounds like footsteps. A frog croak becomes a whisper. Someone swears they saw a figure in the trees. You laugh. Then you stop. Because what if they did? Morning is just a slightly lighter version of night. You're wet. Your boots are wet. Your socks are wet. You try to wring them out. Doesn't matter. They'll be wet again before breakfast. If you're lucky, breakfast is a can of meat that smells like aluminum and tastes like betrayal. If you're not lucky, it's hardtack and swamp water. There's coffee sometimes, but it's lukewarm and gritty and made in a pot that no one remembers cleaning. You feel your body starting to change after just a few days. Everything itches. Everything aches. Your skin starts to break down from constant exposure. Jungle rot, they call it. Trench foot, but tropical. Cuts don't heal. They get infected, fester, and become a problem. You try not to think about how many guys were sent home because their toes gave up. Or how many didn't get sent home at all. You're told to stay alert, but alertness costs energy. Energy you don't have. You're constantly tired, not sleepy, tired, bone tired. The kind of tired that makes you forget what day it is, what time it is, why you're even here. You start counting days by the number of socks you've gone through. You're on sock 3 or 4. You can't remember. Sometimes you see the ocean, sparkling blue just past the tree line. It looks inviting. It isn't. The beaches are mined. The waters are patrolled. And even if you could get there, even if you swam all the way back to your ship, you'd just be sent to the next island. There's no escape, just forward. And still, through all of this, you fight, you carry your gear, you do the patrols. You follow orders barked at you by someone who's just as scared, but trying not to show it. You dig foxholes in soil that collapses in the rain. You build camps out of tarps and desperation. You watch for snipers that may or may not be there. You hear gunfire in the distance and hope it stays there. You hear silence and worry that it won't, because this is just the beginning. This is the welcome. The jungle hasn't even started trying to kill you yet. There's a saying they used back then. Something about how the real war wasn't with bullets or bombs. It was with the mud, the heat, and the fact that no one had invented breathable underwear yet. You've now been on this nameless jungle island for almost 24 hours. Technically alive. Technically combat ready. Realistically, you're sleep deprived, waterlogged, and already suspicious that your insides are planning a mutiny. Your uniform clings to you like regret. It was stiff and scratchy before. Now it's developed its own ecosystem. Jungle fabric, they called it. Supposedly lighter than wool, but somehow just as unbearable. The shirt never dries. Your pants hold on to moisture, like they're emotionally attached to it. The belt digs in, chafes. It smells like someone wiped it down with sour milk and wet pennies. Your boots are a separate crisis. They're heavy, even when dry, which they aren't. And now each step sounds like you're marching on raw meat. Something's growing in them. You don't ask what. You haven't seen a proper latrine since arriving. Instead you dig a hole, stare at the green wall around you, and try not to think about the sound of something hissing nearby. Maybe it's a snake. Maybe it's your last shred of dignity trying to escape. Either way, you finish quickly and cover it up like it's a war crime. No toilet paper. Just a canteen of water you're supposed to conserve, and some leaves that you silently pray aren't poisonous. Later, you'll find out they were. Hygiene is mostly theoretical at this point. You've been issued a razor, a bar of soap the size of a matchbox, and instructions to stay presentable. As if anyone out here is keeping score. Your face is already growing a patchy layer of stubble. A mixture of sweat and dirt has formed what could generously be called a chin beard, and every time you run your fingers through your hair, a small cloud of something releases into the air. Dust? Mold spores? Pure despair? No one knows. Rations are opened with the same enthusiasm as opening a cursed relic. Each tin is a surprise. Could be meat. Could be meat-like. Sometimes you get fruit cocktail, which is the closest thing to joy anyone sees in a week. But mostly it's meat hash, brown, greasy, and the exact texture of cold oatmeal left in a boot overnight. The label says it's fortified. With what, they don't say? Probably hope and expired lard. Water is boiled, always. Or at least it's supposed to be. You hear stories of guys who skip it. They don't come back right. The water here is clear enough to look safe, but every drop carries the jungle's private bacteria collection. Some of it gives you cramps. Some gives you a fever. Some just rearranges your organs like a home renovation project and leaves you praying to every deity you never believed in. You sip your canteen like it's poisoned, which it sort of is, and try to pretend it tastes better than it does. It doesn't. No one tells you this, but the jungle smells different depending on how close you are to death. In the morning it's sour, like wet leaves and stale breath. By midday, it's thick, humid, and vaguely sweet in a way that makes your stomach turn. By late afternoon, it just smells like rot. The whole place is decomposing in slow motion, and you're now part of it. When something dies out here, animal, human, doesn't matter, it disappears fast. Flies, worms, mould, the jungle reclaims everything. It doesn't bury the dead, it eats them. Patrols start early, before dawn, while the mist still hangs low over the ground like a warning. You move slow, single file, every step a gamble. The mud grabs at your feet like it's trying to keep you. Vines wrap around your ankles. You swear you hear something whispering your name, but it's probably just a monkey. or a hallucination. Hard to tell at this point. There's no trail, just forward. You push aside branches with your rifle, wiping spider webs off your face every 30 seconds. Some spiders are harmless. Others are the size of your palm and seem deeply offended by your presence. The rule is simple. Don't scream. Screaming gets attention. Attention gets you dead. You learn to suffer silently. Swallow the fear. Let it settle in your gut next to the bad meat hash and the mounting sense of unreality. Occasionally, you hear something that isn't nature. A pop in the distance, not thunder, not birds, that's rifle fire. Someone's having a worse day than you, and that's saying something. Your heart starts pounding. You check your weapon again and again, because last time the safety was stuck, and you promised yourself you'd never let that happen again. You pretend your hands aren't shaking. Everyone pretends. It's the only thing holding the group together. There are booby traps. Not the cartoon kind, with sticks and nets. Real ones. Grenades tied to tripwires. Bamboo spikes hidden under thin mats of leaves. Pits so deep you don't even hear the guy hit the bottom. You're told to move carefully, which you do. Until the 100th time, you have to stop and wipe your face with a sleeve that smells like something died on it. That's when people get lazy. That's when the jungle reminds you, it's not just a setting. It's an active participant. Every guy in your unit has some kind of rash now. Armpits, groin, under the arms. In places you didn't even know could itch. You start comparing sores like baseball cards. Some are just red and angry looking. Others ooze. A few have been named. There's no ointment. You're told to keep dry. That's hilarious. You could be shot in the leg and they'd still tell you to keep it dry. Someone tries to use powder once. It clumps. The rash gets worse. He stops mentioning it. The letters from home don't help. When they arrive, which is rare, they're 3 months late and wildly irrelevant. Hope you're enjoying the adventure, your aunt writes. She sent cookies. They arrived as crumbs fused into a single stale block. You eat them anyway. One guy got a photo of his girl, but she'd already left him by the time the mail caught up. He keeps the picture. Tells people she's still waiting. No one corrects him. You've stopped using a watch. Time here isn't real. It's just light and dark. Rain and more rain. The sun rises and you pretend to be hopeful. It sets and you pretend not to be scared. Meals mark the passing of hours, but they all taste the same. Wake up, eat, march, wait, eat again, listen for gunfire, try not to cry, go to sleep, wake up screaming, repeat. You start naming your gear, not as a joke, as a coping mechanism. Your helmet becomes frank. Your canteen is old, reliable, even though it leaks. Your rifle already had a name. Your sergeant gave it to you. Said if you called it by name, you'd treat it better. Some guys name their blisters. One guy has a leech he hasn't removed for 3 days. Says it's his only friend who hasn't tried to kill him yet. You learn to walk quieter, breathe less, stay still longer. You start understanding the silence between sounds. The moment just before something bad happens, it has a rhythm. You're not sure if it's intuition or madness, but it works. You haven't stepped on a mine yet, that's enough. And still, the jungle never stops. Rain falls, boots rot, mosquitoes feast. Somewhere far off, someone screams. Maybe in combat, maybe in sleep. You check your weapon, check your socks. Check the trees. You haven't seen the enemy yet. You're not even sure if they're real. But something out there is watching. You feel it. You've felt it since you got here. This is day 2. Or maybe 3. It doesn't matter. You've stopped counting. You're here now. You're part of the jungle, whether it wants you or not. You'd think, after a day of slogging through heat, hunger, and uncooperative terrain, that sleep would come easy. It doesn't. Nothing does out here. Night in the jungle doesn't feel like a pause or a break. It feels like another kind of attack. Just slower, quieter, and a little more personal. There's no real bedtime routine. You don't get to brush your teeth, change into pyjamas, or tuck yourself in. Your whole bed is a patch of uneven ground that might have been the grave of a raccoon yesterday. There's no pillow, just your helmet, turned upside down and stuffed with whatever softish items you can sacrifice. Usually a damp pair of socks or a shirt that already smells like warm vinegar. The result is lumpy, cold, and somehow manages to absorb moisture even when it's not raining. The mud is your mattress. Not beside it. On it. You lie directly on a surface that sucks the heat out of your body and replaces it with a squishy chill that settles into your bones. Even with a poncho or tarp underneath, the ground still finds you. Moisture climbs up through every layer, like the earth is trying to reclaim you in your sleep. Your back aches, your knees throb. You're already sore from the march, and now your spine gets to marinate in cold slime for the next 8 hours, or however long your shift allows. Bugs don't wait for you to fall asleep. They move in the moment you stop moving. Mosquitoes, of course, but also beetles, ants, tiny red things that don't even have a name, but leave bites that puff up like balloons. They crawl over your face, into your collar, down your shirt. You can't swat at them without making noise. And making noise is dangerous. So you lie still and pretend it's fine. Spiders are worse. Big ones. Hairy. Some hang from the branches above, like tiny executioners. Others scurry over the ground, with too many legs and too little shame. You find one in your boot once. It stares at you. You stare back. You both consider your life choices. Then you flick it away and pretend that it won't come back while you're sleeping. Sleep comes in fragments. Short, broken intervals. You close your eyes. Maybe drift off for 5 minutes. Then a rustle nearby jolts you awake. Or a cough. Or a whispered curse from someone else trying to shake a lizard off their chest. Or nothing. Sometimes it's just the silence. Because the jungle is never silent, and when it is, something's wrong. You sleep in shifts, 2 hours on, 4 hours off, or some version of that. Your squad has a rotating watch schedule, but no one sticks to it perfectly. You sit up when it's your turn, rifle across your lap, trying to keep your eyes open while the rest of the team shifts and grunts and breathes around you. Every movement sounds louder at night. Every twig snap might be someone, or something, coming through the trees. The darkness is complete. No moonlight, no city glow, just black, and not peaceful black. Not the kind you get in your room at home. This is suffocating, blindfolded, swallow you whole darkness. The kind that makes you second guess your own hand in front of your face. The kind that hides 100 invisible threats, none of which care how scared you are. Night patrols happen. Sometimes you get tapped. That means leaving camp and walking into the dark with a buddy in your own doubts. No lights, no talking, just careful steps and the kind of breathing you try to control but never can. You think you hear things. Movement, whispered voices. Breathing that isn't yours. Your imagination becomes another threat, just as vivid, just as convincing. You hear the screams early on. First few nights, always someone. Not from your unit, usually. from nearby. Some poor guy in a foxhole who dreamed too vividly about whatever he saw that day. Or someone who's been out here longer and snapped. The jungle plays with your head. It gets inside, rearranges things. Eventually you stop reacting. You hear someone scream in the distance and you just note the direction, in case it comes closer. Sometimes it's not even screaming, it's crying. Soft, broken, half muffled into a sleeve. You pretend not to notice. It's easier that way. Everyone has their moment. Everyone breaks eventually. The trick is doing it quietly when no one's watching. Because out here, the only thing worse than losing your mind is someone seeing you do it. Dreams don't help. When you do sleep, it's never restful. Your brain doesn't show you beaches or home, or your girl waiting for you with a letter. It shows you dead things. It replays the sound of gunfire from the last ambush. The way your buddy's body jerked when he got hit. The smell of blood mixed with sweat and powder. You wake up gasping, heart pounding, eyes wide, certain something's crawling on you. Sometimes something is. You try to find comfort in routine, laying out your pack the same way, cleaning your weapon before sleep, even when it's pointless, folding your poncho just so. It's not about order, it's about control, because everything else out here is chaos. Now, and if your poncho's folded right, maybe tomorrow won't kill you. The worst part is the waiting. You go to sleep never knowing what the next day brings. Will it be a march, another patrol, an ambush, a skirmish in the trees that lasts 90 seconds but leaves 3 guys dead? Or maybe it'll be nothing. Just more heat, more mud, more canned meat, more pretending you're not afraid. The uncertainty hangs over you heavier than the damp air. You try not to think about it. But it creeps in while you're lying there, while your body tries to rest, but your brain keeps asking questions it doesn't want the answers to. Snakes show up at night too. Silent, cold. They curl into your sleeping bag for warmth, if you're using one, or slither across your legs just to remind you they exist. No one screams anymore. You feel something move over your boot and you freeze. Count to 5, then move. If it bites you, you're probably dead. If it doesn't, you just got lucky. Again. You start keeping score in your head. How many nights since you last saw a rat? How many nights since someone in your squad snapped and got reassigned? How many nights since the last firefight? How many nights you've gone without dreaming of home? You stop counting after a while. It's not helpful. You think of home more at night than during the day. During the day you're too busy staying alive. But at night, when everything slows down and the jungle settles into its heavy, wet silence, your mind drifts. You picture your bed, your room, the ceiling fan, the blanket you always kicked off because it was too warm. Now you'd give anything to feel too warm. Eventually, exhaustion wins. You pass out. Not sleep. Just unconsciousness. The kind where your brain gives up and shuts off. Sometimes you wake up with your mouth open, filled with condensation. Or rain. Or a beetle. You spit, cough, wipe your face, and lie back down. There's no point in complaining. No one's listening. They're all living the same nightmare. The sun doesn't rise, it leaks. Grey light starts to seep through the canopy, like the jungle is slowly deciding to acknowledge morning. You wake up sore, damp, eyes gritty, throat dry. You sit up, peel yourself off the ground, and take a breath that tastes like mildew and mosquito repellent. Another night down, another one waiting. You rub your face. Stretch. Pop your back. Check your gear. Shake your boots out. Kill whatever falls out. Then you look around at your squad. Same blank stares. Same slow movements. Same haunted eyes. No one says good morning. What would be the point? Because sleep doesn't refresh you here. It just delays the breakdown. And now it's time to get up and do it all over again. The worst part of waking up isn't the cold or the damp, or even the mouldy sock that might have fused itself to your foot overnight. It's the realization that you're still here, that it wasn't a dream, that yes, the jungle is real, and no, the war hasn't ended while you were unconscious for 3 hours. You open your eyes and immediately regret it. The sky is a dull grey bruise through the treetops. Your body feels like it's been pressed into the ground with a shovel. You sit up slow, not because you're being cautious, just because everything hurts. Your back cracks, your shoulders groan, your legs feel like they've been beaten with wet sandbags. You're sore in places you can't even reach. Your left hip is wet. Why? Doesn't matter. Everything is wet. There's a puddle forming in your boot, and you're still wearing it. Your poncho's half torn and useless. The tarp above you sagged under the weight of the rain, and now droops like a defeated flag. A mosquito buzzes near your ear. You don't even bother swatting it. Around you, the rest of your squad is going through the same thing. No one talks. No one has the energy. You make eye contact with one guy and it's like staring into a mirror. Same swollen eyelids, same 1,000-yard stare, same unspoken understanding that yes, this is in fact still happening. You stand up, slowly. Every joint makes a sound like a rusty hinge. You stretch, and something in your lower back seizes like it's trying to escape. You mumble a curse. Someone else groans. It's like a symphony of bodily failure. The morning chorus of the damned. The smell hits you next. It's always there, but worse in the morning. Your clothes haven't dried in days. They've absorbed layers of sweat, swamp air, and human misery, and now radiate a smell that's hard to describe. It's not just bad, it's complex. Like something fermenting in a gym sock inside a rotting pumpkin. You sniff once and immediately regret it. Your shirt squelches as you move. You feel a rash starting near your ribs. Maybe it's new. Maybe it's been there for days. Who knows? The air is thick. Not fog, not exactly. More like hot breath from a sick dog. Everything feels heavier than it should be. Your rifle is damp and sticky to the touch. You wipe it off with your sleeve, which only makes things worse. You check the chamber out of habit, even though no one's fired a shot in days. It's clean. Or clean enough. You open your pack, hoping something inside survived the night. It didn't. Your last dry sock is now a moist sponge. Your rations are warm and slightly swollen. You tap the can to make sure it's still sealed. It hisses slightly when you open it. That's not a good sign, but you eat it anyway. Not out of hunger left days ago. Out of necessity. Calories mean movement. Movement means survival. You take a bite and chew, like someone doing penance. Today it's beans and fat, or maybe pork and beans, or just beans and something pretending to be pork. You don't taste it. You just shovel it in with your mess kit, which you forgot to rinse last night. Now it adds a faint metallic flavour with undertones of sadness. You wash it down with lukewarm water that tastes like it's been filtered through regret. There's coffee, technically. A packet of instant sludge you stir into your canteen. It's bitter, gritty, and smells faintly of burnt tyres. You drink it anyway. Someone lets out a wet cough. It rattles in their chest like loose change in a tin can. No one comments. Everyone's been coughing. The humidity turns your lungs into slow cookers. One guy has been wheezing for 3 days, but the medic said he's fine, which just means he hasn't collapsed yet. Your boots are still soaked. You consider taking them off to let your feet breathe, but you know better. The moment you remove them, everything swells. And once that happens, good luck getting them back on. So you tighten the laces over your aching ankles and wince as the damp leather hugs your foot like a cold handshake from a stranger you don't trust. You take a moment to clean your rifle, not because it's dirty, but because it's the only thing you can control. You wipe it down, inspect the bolt, re-oil the parts that won't stay dry anyway. You check your ammo pouch. Still there. Still soggy. Everything is soggy. The canvas, the straps, the leather. Your soul. Around camp, gear rustles. Men move like old machines. Slowly, reluctantly, someone dumps the used coffee water into the dirt. A helmet clangs against a mess tin. A whispered curse floats in the air like smoke. Nobody raises their voice. Sound travels in the jungle. Too much noise and something might answer. The latrine pit smells like a punishment. It's already half full, and it's only been 2 days. You hold your breath while hovering over it, trying not to make eye contact with the mess you added yesterday. Flies buzz. Something splashes that shouldn't splash. You finish fast and back away like you've just escaped a crime scene. You wash your hands with a tiny splash of water from your canteen. It doesn't help. The grime is permanent now, embedded under your nails, in your skin. You rub your face with your sleeve and smear more sweat into your pores. You don't care. Hygiene was a luxury. Out here, it's just something you remember from magazines. There's no briefing. Just a nod from your sergeant and a vague hand gesture. Maybe you're staying put today. Maybe you're heading out. You wait, gear packed, pretending you're ready, even though you're not. No one ever is. You listen for the familiar shuffle of boots behind you. If they move, you move. If they don't, you sit and wait for something worse. Rain starts again. Of course it does. It's not dramatic. Just the slow, steady kind that soaks you before you even notice. You pull your poncho over your head. It leaks. Everything leaks. The water runs down your back, into your collar, collects in your socks. Your skin feels like it's melting. You scratch absent-mindedly at your neck. The rash is spreading. Breakfast sits in your stomach like concrete, warm and uncomfortable. You try to burp and get a hint of metal and beans. A nearby soldier lets out a long sigh. You both make eye contact and then immediately look away. You've run out of things to say to each other. Conversations become a luxury no one can afford. It just reminds you of everything you're not doing. You check your watch. It's fogged up. You tap it. Nothing. Doesn't matter. Time doesn't mean much here. It's morning. That's all you need to know. Morning means moving. Or waiting. Or dying. You wait to find out which one. The jungle hasn't gotten any quieter. Bugs still scream. Birds chirp in patterns that sound like warnings. A branch snaps somewhere. Everyone goes still. No one breathes. Then it's quiet again. Maybe it was an animal. Maybe not. Either way, your heart skips twice before settling into that dull thud you've learned to ignore. Your pack feels heavier today. It's not. You've carried the same load for a week. But your shoulders hurt more. Your back protests more. Your fingers are starting to blister from just holding your rifle. You shift your gear and pretend it helps. The guy next to you is muttering. Something about a letter. He says he's reading it in his head. You don't ask what it says. You just nod like you understand. He's not crazy. Not yet. But close. You hope he holds out. You've seen what happens when someone doesn't. You tighten the strap on your helmet. The chin buckle digs into your skin. You feel the familiar itch of mildew behind your ears. You scratch once. Twice. Then stop. It's no use. The jungle's already claimed you. You're just trying to keep your limbs moving. There's no sun. Just light. The kind that filters through wet leaves and makes everything glow a little green. You stand up. Adjust your gear. Wait for the signal. Another day has started. Not because you're ready. Just because the jungle doesn't care. No one gives a proper briefing on how to relieve yourself in a jungle war zone. You just learn. Or rather, you suffer until your body figures it out. Like everything else out here, toileting isn't something you do. It's something that happens to you. You think you've been through uncomfortable bathroom experiences before. Gas station rest stops, maybe a festival porta potty. Those were 5-star resorts compared to this. It starts with the urge, and it's never at a convenient time. You'll be standing in formation, sitting on a log, eating a cold can of rations that claims to be corned beef, and then it hits that slow rising pressure that says, hey, the body has plans. You try to ignore it, hoping it'll go away. It doesn't. Nothing goes away in the jungle except your will to live. You pick a direction, doesn't matter which, and walk far enough from camp that nobody can hear you. At least that's the idea. But sound travels weird here. Sometimes a whisper carries through the trees like a scream. Sometimes someone right behind you disappears into the noise and never comes back. You find a spot. Somewhere leafy. Maybe slightly downhill if you're smart. Not too close to water. Not near a path. And not under any branch that looks like it's moving. Because if it's moving, it's not the wind. Nothing out here moves gently. You start digging. With your entrenching tool if you remembered it. With your boot heel if you didn't. The ground is soft but full of roots, like the jungle is trying to keep its secrets buried. You manage a shallow hole, maybe 6 inches deep. It's supposed to be more. You don't care. You're sweating, your back aches, and something just bit your thigh through your pants. You hurry, you drop your gear, unbuckle your belt with shaking hands, and squat like a condemned man. Every sound becomes a threat. A distant bird call, the rustle of a branch, a buzzing near your ear. You freeze, mid-squat, heart pounding, trying not to tip over. Balance is everything. One shift in weight and your heel sinks into mud, or worse, into yesterday's mistake. No one wants to relive yesterday's mistake. If you're lucky, it's quick. If you're not, it's war. Your stomach is a traitor. The rations you ate yesterday are staging a rebellion. The humidity hasn't helped. You haven't had a real vegetable in weeks. Your body is confused. Things come out too fast, or not at all. Sometimes both, somehow. You start to sweat harder. Not from the heat, from fear. The worst part isn't what leaves your body. It's what finds you while you're doing it. Ants, mosquitoes, spiders. Sometimes flies. Other times it's worse, leeches. Small, black, silent. They latch onto whatever they can find. You won't feel them. Not right away. They're polite like that. They wait until you're walking back to camp, pulling up your pants, already regretting every decision you've ever made. And then you feel the warm wetness. Not sweat, not blood, both. You drop your trousers again and search. There it is. A leech, happily bloated, stuck to your thigh, your hip, you're somewhere you'd rather not look. You panic. You've heard the rules. Don't yank it, it might leave the head inside. Burn it? Maybe. Salt, if you had any. You fumble with your lighter, curse the humidity that soaked your matches, and finally just flick the thing off with a stick and hope it's enough. It isn't. You'll have a welt for a week and an infection for a month. Wiping is its own ordeal. Toilet paper exists in theory, but the supply line is inconsistent at best. You were issued some once. It lasted 2 days. Now you improvise. Leaves are the obvious choice, but not all leaves are equal. Some are soft and merciful. Others are spiked, sticky, or emit an oil that feels like betrayal. You learn the difference by trial and extremely painful error. Some guys use socks. Not the clean ones. They ran out of those ages ago. But a crusty spare that's already given up on life. You wipe, bury it, and walk back to camp with one less layer between you and trench foot. Others use nothing. Just a grim acceptance and a firm belief that whatever happens next is future, use problem. And the smell. Dear God, the smell. Everything rots here. Human waste, animal remains. Even plants seem to die halfway through living. The pit you just used will be covered in seconds, but the odour hangs in the air like a physical presence. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. The jungle's natural perfume includes a generous top note of fresh feces and despair. Sanitation isn't a thing. There are rules, technically. Dig a hole, bury your waste, keep a distance from water sources. But when you're 4 days into a jungle push, barely sleeping, barely eating, and constantly moving, those rules dissolve. You go where you can, when you can, and you do it fast. Sometimes it's behind a tree. Sometimes it's in your helmet. Temporarily, you swear. Sometimes it's in your pants, because there was no other option and your body made the call for you. At some point, someone will get dysentery. Maybe not you, not yet, but it's coming. The signs are subtle. Extra quiet during meals. Grimacing while walking. Spending longer than usual in the bushes. And then the stories start. Someone passed out mid-squat. Someone went 12 times in an hour. Someone bled. The medic shrugs. Hydrate, he says. Like that's a solution when the water might kill you faster. Eventually, the squad stops pretending this is normal. There's a quiet shame that builds. Grown men, combat trained, reduced to sneaking into the undergrowth like guilty animals. You don't talk about it. No one wants to share that part. You just walk back to camp slower than usual, a little paler, a little weaker, hoping no one notices the change in your gait. Sometimes someone tries to be clever, builds a makeshift latrine, logs across a pit, maybe some bamboo for privacy. It lasts one night before something collapses, tips over, or gets swarmed by insects. You go back to squatting behind the same cursed tree as always. By now it probably has a nickname. You hate it. It hates you back. Nighttime is worse. The jungle doesn't care that you have human needs. When it hits you after dark, you have a choice. Hold it and risk internal damage, or grab a flashlight, pray it still works, and walk into darkness where you can't see your own boots. Every step is a gamble. You whisper apologies to the universe. Every leaf crunch a threat. Every shadow a warning. You go fast, you go silent, and you go scared. And when it's over, when you stumble back to your damp tarp and try to lie down again, the shame doesn't leave. It sticks to you like everything else. You close your eyes and try not to dream about leeches. You hope tomorrow is different. It won't be. The jungle doesn't care how embarrassed you are. It just keeps watching. You know it's morning, not because the sun is up, but because someone nearby is swearing at a tin of meat. That's breakfast in the jungle. Less a meal and more a punishment handed down by a military logistics officer who's never been outside. The term mess kit has never been more accurate. There's no lineup, no coffee pot warming in a field kitchen. You just sit on a log, or a rock, or the least muddy patch of ground you can find, and dig through your pack for whatever can is next in the cursed rotation. There's no excitement, no curiosity. You already know it's going to be bad. The only mystery is how bad. The can opener on your knife barely works. It slips, cuts your finger, rust flakes into the food. You lick the wound out of instinct, then regret it immediately because now your mouth tastes like blood and iron shavings. You pry the lid off and stare down into a greyish lump surrounded by some kind of congealed fat that wobbles when touched. It doesn't have a smell exactly, just a presence. You look around. Everyone else is eating. Sort of. Chewing quietly. Not speaking, just enduring. You spoon out the first bite and hold it in your mouth like a hostage. Chewing doesn't make it better. You don't taste meat. You taste salt, grease, and regret. You swallow it whole and follow it with a sip of water that's been sitting in your canteen since yesterday, now warm and faintly metallic. It helps wash it down, but only just. Today's ration might be meat and vegetable hash. The label rubbed off 2 days ago. Could also be ham and eggs. It's hard to tell the difference once it's spent a month in a metal can inside a humid pack. Texture-wise, it's somewhere between wallpaper paste and cat food. There's a thin layer of oil at the bottom that collects like runoff. You try to stir it in, but it only makes things worse. If you're lucky, there's a side item. Maybe a pack of crackers so dry they turn to dust on contact with saliva. Maybe fruit cocktail. A few cubes of unidentifiable mush in a syrup thick enough to lubricate a tank. That's a treat. Most days, you just get the can. You learn to eat fast. Not because you're hungry. You're not. Your stomach is still recovering from the water you drank last night. But you eat because if you don't, someone else will. Coffee is optional. The powder comes in a tiny packet the size of a matchbook. You dump it into your canteen cup, stir with whatever stick is nearby, and try not to think about the floaties. It's weak, bitter, and always too hot or not hot enough. The taste is offensive in a way that feels deliberate, but it wakes you up, or at least shocks your system enough to get moving. The spoon you use has a film on it that never goes away. You've washed it, scrubbed it with sand, dipped it in boiling water. The grime wins every time. Every bite carries the faint tang of something that once lived. You tell yourself it's protein. You keep eating. Someone makes a joke. It's always the same joke. At least it's not as bad as the Navy's food. No one laughs. It wasn't funny the first time, and now it's just a reminder that someone, somewhere, is eating something that wasn't scraped out of a can in the dirt. The medics warned you about dysentery. You laughed at the time. It sounded like an old-fashioned illness, the kind people got in pioneer days. Now it's your constant companion. Your stomach gurgles with intent. Every bite is a gamble. One wrong can, one slightly dented tin, and you'll be spending the rest of the day in a squat, rethinking all your life choices. They give you pills, anti-malaria, anti-whatever this is. You take them, swallow them dry because your water tastes like rust, and immediately feel nauseous. Sometimes the pills do nothing. Sometimes they give you new problems. You take them anyway, because the alternative is worse. Rations come with chewing gum, theoretically help with digestion or dental hygiene. It's a hard, flavourless chunk that turns into rubber in your mouth. You chew it once, twice, spit it out. It lands on the ground with a sound that feels insulting. The cans pile up fast. Everyone's got a small mountain of empties in their packs. You're supposed to carry them out. You don't. You bury them. Or toss them into the trees. Some guys carve little faces into them, stick them on poles like jungle scarecrows. A few decorate them with cigarette butts and label them with the names of officers they hate. It's the only creative outlet left. You miss fresh food. You'd give anything for a real egg. A slice of bread. Something with a crunch that doesn't come from sand in your teeth. Once someone gets a package from home with beef jerky in it, he doesn't share. No one blames him. That jerky is worth more than gold out here. Breakfast doesn't fill you. It doesn't energise. It doesn't comfort. It just adds mass to your stomach and gives you the illusion of stability. Your body needs calories to march, to sweat, to not collapse. So you eat and you chew, and you swallow the taste of metal and lard and something that might once have been meat. And then you pack up your gear, wipe your spoon on your sleeve, and get ready to move. Because it's never long before someone calls out orders. And the only thing worse than breakfast is carrying it in your gut while hiking through jungle heat and wondering which one of your internal organs is going to quit next. You were issued a uniform before deployment. They called it jungle ready. Lightweight, breathable, durable. Words made up by someone who never spent 5 minutes in the Pacific. On day 1, it looked presentable. Olive drab, clean lines. A little snug in the shoulders maybe, but wearable. Now, it's a biological experiment wrapped around your body. The fabric has changed, not just faded, transformed. What used to be cloth is now something between soggy cardboard and shredded lettuce. It smells like wet dog left in a gym bag under a heat lamp. The shirt clings to your skin like it's trying to merge with it. The sleeves don't roll up anymore because they're too stiff with dried sweat and mud. The collar has frayed into something that feels like sandpaper soaked in vinegar. The pants aren't better. They chafe at the thighs, sag at the knees, and bunch in the groin. No matter how you walk, something is always rubbing. The inside seams have started to wear through, and you've got blisters in places that shouldn't be blisterable. The button fly? Gone. You safety pin it shut now. Zippers would have been a luxury. Buttons were a sick joke. You get poked every time you bend over. You've stopped bending over. Underwear is optional. Most guys stopped wearing it days ago. The few who still have clean pairs guard them like relics, but even those don't help much. The constant damp has a way of seeping through everything. Cotton holds water like a sponge. Synthetic fabrics melt under friction. You start to wonder if it's better to go commando and just accept the consequences. Spoiler, there are always consequences. The socks are the real tragedy. Issued in triplicate, all now varying shades of brown, grey and despair. No matter how many times you try to dry them over a fire or hang them from your rifle while marching, they stay damp. Not moist. Damp. The kind of damp that breeds bacteria. You peel them off at the end of the day and your feet look like they've been pickled. White, soft, peeling, and the smell. There are no words for the smell. Your boots are falling apart. Once stiff and imposing, now soft around the edges and permanently wet. The soles are starting to separate from the uppers. You tie them tighter, double knot the laces, and hope for the best. Inside, It's like walking on warm, gritty pudding. Your toes are blistered, your heels are raw, the arch support is theoretical, and when you step in certain kinds of mud, there's a sucking noise that feels both physical and emotional. Every night you try to clean your clothes, at least rinse them, but there's no soap, no brushes, just a bucket, some river water, and a vague sense of futility. You scrub until your knuckles bleed, then hang everything on a line. It rains before they dry. Every time. So you wear them wet the next day. Again. The jungle doesn't care about military issue. It eats cloth. Fungus grows in the folds of your cuffs. Mildew blooms in your armpits. There's mould on your belt. You wipe it off, and it comes back. Someone in your squad found mushrooms growing out of his boot leather. He laughed. Then he cried. You've got holes in both elbows, a rip down one thigh, a tear across the back where your pack rubbed too hard on a long march. You patch things with string, tape, or whatever can be stolen from supply drops. Someone once used dental floss to sew up a knee. It held. Barely. The worst part is the itching. It never stops. Your skin is constantly irritated. Rashes spread across your chest and back like little maps of suffering. You've got bug bites on top of bites. A cluster of boils near your waistline. Something on your neck that oozes when you scratch it too hard. The medic said to keep it dry and apply powder. He may as well have said to wish it away. The humidity turns your uniform into a second skin. Not in a supportive way, in a parasitic way. Every movement feels like rubbing your body against sandpaper soaked in soup. You can't breathe. You can't cool down. You just sweat into the same fabric that's already soaked with yesterday's sweat. And the day before that. And the day before that. You start to smell yourself. Not in passing. Constantly. It's like your personal aura. A mix of body odour, mildew, grease and despair. No one says anything. They all smell too. You pass each other in silence. Two walking mould colonies in combat boots. You remember reading about how uniforms were supposed to be standardised, dignified. There was pride in wearing one. Now you just hope yours holds together long enough to keep the mosquitoes off your skin and the leeches from climbing up your legs. It's not about pride, it's about survival. Helmets are their own nightmare. You wear them constantly. They dig into your scalp, trap heat, and funnel sweat down your face. The liner smells like old fish and wet rope. The chin strap is crusted with something you don't want to identify. You loosen it sometimes, just to feel something resembling relief. But not too much. Loose gear gets you killed. Every soldier looks the same now. Wrinkled, stained, disintegrating. The jungle has levelled everyone. Ranks are hidden under grime. Badges are faded. Everyone's uniform has merged into a single shade of greenish-brown failure. You see guys with sleeves rolled up, pants cut off at the knee, boots duct taped together. No one cares. No one judges. The jungle stripped that away weeks ago. Eventually you stop thinking of it as a uniform. It's just skin now. Gross, tattered, infested skin that you can't take off. It doesn't protect you. It doesn't define you. It just exists, wrapped around you like an insult you carry into every miserable, mosquito-soaked day. And then you wake up and do it again. Because out here, that's the only kind of fashion that matters. Your boots are lying to you. Every time you lace them up, you pretend they're still doing their job, protecting your feet, giving you support, keeping you mobile. They're not. They gave up about a week ago, and now they're just holding moisture in and hope out. If your uniform is your skin, your boots are the coffin wrapped around your feet. Every morning you do the same ritual. You sit on a log or squat near your pack and brace yourself. Then you start untying the laces. The leather is swollen and soft from rain, warped in places, stiff in others. Sometimes the eyelets rip right out when you pull too hard. You go slow, not for safety, just so your foot doesn't come out with a sock still melted to it. Then comes the peel. You pull the boot off and the smell hits first. Not just bad, not just offensive. It's thick. It has weight. Like someone liquefied gym socks in disappointment, let them ferment in a barrel, then sprayed it directly into your face. You gag, quietly. You're not the first, everyone does. Then you peel off the sock, if you can. Sometimes it resists. The fabric sticks to the skin like wet tissue paper, glued down with rot. It comes away in shreds. You're not sure where the sock ends and the foot begins. You've stopped asking. You don't want the answer. And then there they are. Your feet. The same feet that used to walk across pavement, run through the yard, press gas pedals and carpet and cool tiles in summer. Now they're white. Not pale. White. The kind of soggy, pruned white that looks more like dead skin than something alive. You touch your heel and a chunk of skin comes off with your thumb. The toes are worse. Swollen. Cracked. The skin splitting between them like old wood. Blisters forming in new places every day. Some have already popped. Others are about to. That the arches are stained a dull grey green, like they've started to mould. Maybe they have. No one tells you what foot mould looks like. You try to dry them. You do. You rub them with your last clean rag, or wave them in the air, or hold them near the fire if you're lucky enough to have one going. Doesn't matter. The humidity just clings to them. The damp comes back before you can blink. Within minutes your feet are wet again. You haven't felt them dry since the first week. The medics call it immersion foot. You call it rot, jungle rot, trench foot. Doesn't matter what name it gets. It all ends the same. Skin peeling off in sheets, infections creeping up your legs, toenails turning black and falling off like brittle coins. One guy had maggots, and more real ones, in the flesh under his arch. They moved when he touched them. The medic said it was self-cleaning. No one laughed. They tell you to change your socks twice a day, rotate pairs, keep them dry. You'd love to. But you only have 3 pairs, and 2 are currently hanging from a stick in a tree, dripping like rotten fruit. The 3rd is on your foot, slowly digesting your skin. You change them anyway, not because it helps, but because not changing them feels like surrender. Some guys have stopped wearing socks altogether. They say bare feet dry faster. Maybe it's true, or maybe they just gave up. You see them walking around camp with split heels, bleeding toes, limping like old men. They stuff their boots with leaves or rags or nothing at all. Their feet stink worse than the latrine. There's powder when it shows up. Foot powder. Antifungal. Medicinal. Useless. It clumps instantly. Turns to paste in the damp. Stings when it hits the cracks in your skin. You use it anyway. Hope dies last, but it does die. Blisters come daily. Sometimes you feel them forming. Little bubbles under the skin. Hot and tight and angry. Other times, they just appear. One minute you're walking. The next your heel feels like it's being stabbed with a toothpick, dipped in fire. You sit down, peel back the sock, and there it is. Swollen, red, or green, or black. You pop it with a safety pin, or your knife. You wipe the pus away with your sleeve and keep going. There's always more walking. Always. You don't get a break because your feet hurt. You don't get time off because the skin's sloughing off your instep. You lace your boots tighter grit your teeth, and keep marching. Because if you can walk, you're still in the fight. And if you can't, well, someone else takes your rifle, and your spot in the foxhole goes to the next guy with working toes. One day you notice a smell and realise it's coming from your foot, not your boot. Something deeper, rotten meat kind of smell. You check your toes and find a black patch that wasn't there yesterday. You show the medic. He frowns, says to keep an eye on it, hands you a gauze pad that's already damp from his own bag. You tape it on and hope you can walk another mile before the skin underneath decides to die for good. The guys joke about losing toes, like it's funny. Less to wash, one of them says, holding up a foot with 3 blackened nails. He limps away, laughing. Later, you find him sitting behind a tree, pulling something off his pinky toe with a piece of wire. You don't ask. By the 3rd week, your feet stop hurting. That's the worst part. They go numb, like they've given up sending pain signals, like they know you're not listening anymore. You still walk, still march, but every step feels like stomping through sludge in someone else's shoes. You used to dream of hot showers, cleaned socks, dry floors. Now you just dream of a floor that isn't squishy. A morning where your feet don't stick to the inside of your boots. You'd kill for 10 minutes with a towel and a bottle of foot powder that actually works. Instead you settle for removing your boots at night, letting the air hit your open sores, and watching as tiny insects crawl across your toes like tourists in a war zone. You close your eyes, breathe through your mouth, and tell yourself it's fine, because it has to be. These are your feet now, and they're taking you wherever this hell goes next. Your rifle is supposed to be an extension of yourself. That's what they told you in training. Treat it like a limb. Sleep with it. Clean it daily. Know every sound it makes and what those sounds mean. Out here, you treat it more like a roommate you can't stand, but desperately need. It's heavy, temperamental, and gets you killed if you ignore it, but at least it's company. You were issued an M1 Garand, 8 rounds in a clip, semi-automatic, solid stock that can crack a jaw if needed. In theory, it's a good rifle. In training, it performed well. On the range, it was reliable. In the jungle, it's a rusting, mud-clogged pipe that may or may not fire when you need it to. The environment hates machines, and this one is no exception. Every crevice is filled with moisture. The bolt sticks sometimes. Not enough to notice during cleaning, but enough to ruin your day during a firefight. You've learned the tap and slap method. Tap the bolt, slap the stock, try again. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you just swear under your breath and pretend you're not panicking. Mud is the enemy. It gets everywhere. In the barrel. In the action. In the trigger housing. One wrong step and your rifle is submerged in swamp water. You pull it out, shake it off, curse, then disassemble and clean it while crouched behind a root system that might also be hiding a snake. You wipe each part with whatever's dry. Your sleeve, a corner of your pack, the inside of your shirt. It doesn't matter. The next rain will undo it. The ammo doesn't like the jungle either. The brass corrodes, the clips warp. If the cartridge fails, the round doesn't chamber properly. If the round doesn't chamber, your weapon jams. And when your weapon jams, you've got 2 options. Fix it under pressure, or start swinging like it's a club. Neither option is ideal. You hear stories about other rifles. The Japanese Arizaka, tough, bolt action. Slower to fire but rugged enough to work when soaked. The Bark, heavy, finicky, spits lead like an angry wasp until it overheats and quits. The Thompson submachine gun, favoured by officers and anyone lucky enough to liberate one from a fallen buddy. Great at close range. Eats ammo. Weighs more than a bag of regrets. Used one once. The bolt stuck shut after 5 minutes in the rain. The 30 caliber machine guns are a group effort. Crew served. You carry the tripod. Someone else carries the barrel. Someone else brings the belts. You never fire it alone. You never clean it fast. You lug it through mud, knowing that if it goes down, half your firepower disappears with it. When it works, it's terrifying. When it doesn't, it's dead weight. Cleaning is constant. After every patrol, you strip the rifle. Field clean at least. Brush out the carbon, oil the parts, check the barrel. You use an oiled rag that now smells like old pennies and mould. You've memorised every groove in the receiver. You can do it in the dark. You have, more than once. But the jungle undoes everything. Every bit of rust you scraped yesterday is back today. The oil breaks down. The sling rots. The buttstock is chipped from knocking it against roots, rocks, or the side of your own helmet. You're not careless. The jungle just doesn't care. You've seen rifles fail at the worst possible times. During a night ambush when the firing pin stuck, and the guy just sat there clicking uselessly. During a patrol when the trigger wouldn't reset, and the guy holding it froze, then started smacking it like a broken radio. One time, someone's clip ejected mid-fire, pinging off a branch and giving away your position. That guy's not here anymore. You carry extra ammo, but not because you think you'll need it. It's because you know half of it probably won't fire. Some of the cartridges are swollen from heat. Some have grime packed into the grooves. You try to keep it dry. You fail. Everyone does. The ammo cans leak. The pouches soak through. You open one and find a green film on the rounds. You wipe it off and hope it doesn't matter. It probably will. Your weapon isn't just a gun. It's a shovel, a lever, a tent pole, a crutch. You've used it to dig holes, pry open crates, hold up tarps, and prop up guys who couldn't walk. You know what it sounds like when it hits bone? You've cleaned blood from the stock. Someone else's once. You didn't ask who. You just wiped it off and moved on. You don't feel heroic carrying it. You feel burdened. The weight never leaves. 9 pounds of metal and wood that digs into your shoulder, slides down your back, knocks against your leg. It makes you walk crooked. Gives you a bruise on your hip where the sling rests. You lie down and it presses against your spine. You sleep with it. Wake up tangled in the strap. Move through the jungle like it's part of your skeleton. At night, you check it one last time. Run your fingers over the bolts. Pull it back just enough to see the chamber. Feel for any grit. Close it. Sling it across your chest. Close your eyes. Listen for the click, that means the safety is on. Pray it stays that way. When a firefight starts, you don't think. You pull the trigger and hope. Sometimes it fires. Sometimes it doesn't. You don't get mad anymore. You just clear the jam and keep going. Because the guy next to you might need cover. Because the enemy doesn't care if your bolt is stuck. Because if your rifle quits, you might not get a second chance to fix it. Your aim isn't great. Nobody's is. The jungle's too dense. Visibility is 10 feet on a good day. You're not firing at people. You're firing at shadows, muzzle flashes, movement in the leaves. You aim where you last saw something. Then you duck. Then you move. You don't have time to count rounds. You fire until the clip pings, then slam in another. If you're out of clips, you're in trouble. You beg, borrow, steal. Pull them off the belts of guys who don't need them anymore. You carry more than you should. Your belt sags. Your shoulders ache but you'd rather deal with that than run dry mid-fight. One guy tied a piece of string to his last full clip. Said it was his panic reload. You asked what he'd do when that one was empty. He shrugged. Said he'd throw the rifle and run. You both laughed. Quietly. No one runs far in this terrain. Grenades are another story. You carry a couple. They rattle in your pack like loose teeth. The pin loops are bent out of habit. You've practiced throwing, but not in a jungle filled with branches, vines and uneven footing. You throw one and it bounces off a root, lands 3 feet in front of you. You dive. It doesn't go off. You sit up and vomit. Then throw another. That one works. Bayonets are issued, but no one uses them right. The blades are dull. The scabbards fall apart. You use it to open cans, scrape mud off your boots, or jam into logs to hang your gear. One guy really sharpened it, then forgot it was there and stabbed himself in the thigh during a crawl. No one blamed him. Accidents happen when you're tired and everything hurts. Some guys customize their weapons, wrap the stock in tape, add sling extensions, etch names into the metal. Yours still has the serial number and a dent in the side from where it hit a tree trunk during a night march. You leave it there. It feels earned. You've thought about what happens if you lose it. If you drop it in a river. If it's torn from your hands. If you have to leave it behind to carry someone else. You know what they say? If you come back without it, don't come back at all. You think they're half joking. Maybe less. Every time you clean it, you think about that. That this thing, this heavy, unreliable, rust-stained object, is the only thing between you and whatever's out there. You don't trust it, but you need it. And in a way, that's worse. You don't name it. Some guys do. They call theirs Betsy, or Lucille, or Faith. You keep yours nameless. It's not a friend. It's not a person. It's just a tool. A noisy, awkward, unreliable tool that might keep you alive if it decides to cooperate. When you march, it bumps your side. When you sleep, it rests on your chest. When you die, it goes with you. Not because you loved it, just because the jungle doesn't offer a choice. There's a strange kind of silence in the jungle before something bad happens. Not quiet. Nothing here is ever really quiet. The insects keep buzzing. Birds keep screeching. Something large keeps stomping around just out of sight. But underneath all that noise, there's this pressure. Like the air's waiting for something. Like it knows more than you do. You feel it in your gut first, then in your spine, then in the back of your throat. You start looking around. Not for anything specific, just looking. Because you know something's wrong. You just don't know where it is. Or what shape it's going to take. Snipers are the obvious threat. You know they're out there. You don't know where. You'll never see them, not until it's too late. They've been in the trees for hours, days sometimes, wrapped in bark, mud, and stillness. They don't move. They don't blink. They just wait. One shot. One kill. You don't hear the bullet. You hear the slap of meat. Then the guy next to you drops like a sack of wet cement. You freeze. You wait. Nothing else happens. That's the terrifying part. It's not a firefight. It's a message. You want to fire back. But at what? There's nothing there. Just branches and leaves and shadows. You stare so long, your eyes start making shapes. That one root looks like a shoulder. That one leaf twitched. Did it? You don't know. No one does. You're aiming at phantoms. Sometimes you find their nests afterward. A perch up high, padded with moss. Empty shell casings. A neat little pile of spent rounds next to a spot that still smells like sweat. Maybe a few bamboo stakes nearby, pointing out like jagged teeth. You stare at it and wonder how long they were there. How many times you walked right under them. How often your helmet was in their sights and they just didn't pull the trigger. The jungle was full of traps like that, not just the ones laid by the enemy. Though those are bad enough. Grenades wired to saplings, pits lined with bamboo spears, tripwires tied to nothing at all just to make you hesitate. You learn to spot some. You miss others. One guy stepped on a flatboard. Nothing happened. He stepped off. Boom. They built it backwards. Just to catch you on the way out. But the real trap is the jungle itself. It hides everything. Every enemy. Every movement. Every danger. The plants grow thick and fast. You clear a path 1 hour, and by the next it's already closing behind you. The canopy turns daylight into a green haze. Shadows dance on their own. You swear you saw someone move just ahead, but there's no one there. And yet you aim your rifle anyway, just in case. You start to hear things. Twigs snapping, leaves rustling. A cough in the distance. But when you get there, nothing. No footprints. No blood. Just jungle. Always more jungle. It soaks in every sound and gives nothing back. Then come the animals. Snakes first. Always the snakes. Some are long and lazy. Others are fast and mean. All of them are poisonous or angry or both. You find one coiled inside your boot one morning. Just curled up, sleeping. You shake it out and it slithers away without a word. Another guy wasn't so lucky. Stepped over a log and it didn't see the tail sticking out. It struck once, right above the boot line. He was dead before they could carry him 20 feet. You wear your boots tighter now. Tuck your pants in. Not because it helps, but because it makes you feel like you're doing something. Anything. You poke the ground with your bayonet before stepping. Every stick might not be a stick. Every vine might not be a vine. Spiders are next, the big kind. Palm-sized, hairy. Some of them just hang there, right in front of your face, waiting for you to walk through their web and scream like a child. Others are ground dwellers. Burrow into your sleeping area. You wake up with one on your chest. You freeze. It stares at you. You don't move. You don't breathe. It crawls away eventually. You don't sleep for the rest of the night. Then come the scorpions, centipedes, things with too many legs. No one even knows the names of half the creatures out here. You just know they bite, or sting, or crawl into your gear and stay there until you reach in without looking. The jungle itself joins in. You brush against a tree, and your skin breaks out in hives. A plant you leaned on is covered in stinging hairs. One guy scratched his arm, and his hand swelled up for 2 days. Another slipped down a mossy rock face and landed on something sharp and alive. The wound festered. The medic drained it with a pocket knife. The smell still haunts you. Sometimes you think the trees are watching. Not in a poetic way. In a real way. The way branches move when there's no wind. The way a patch of brush seems thicker the second time you pass it. The way the vines hang low enough to grab your helmet, but high enough to avoid suspicion. You cut them back with a machete, and they grow back overnight. You stop asking questions. The jungle always wins. And then there's the heat. The kind of heat that doesn't just sit on your skin. It enters your lungs, clings to your bones, replaces your blood with sweat. You feel dizzy. You lose track of time. You hallucinate. A rock looks like a helmet. A shadow looks like a rifle barrel. You blink, and it's gone. You keep moving anyway, because standing still makes it worse. There are diseases too, ones you don't see coming. Malaria, dengue, jungle fevers with the names no one can pronounce. You wake up shaken, teeth chattering, soaked in sweat. The medic shrugs and gives you quinine, if he has any left. You vomit it up an hour later. The fever burns through you. Then it fades. Then it comes back. You march anyway. Even the ground isn't safe. You step on something that looks solid and sink knee-deep into muck. You claw your way out, boots suction tight, rifle slung across your back and covered in slime. You slip, fall, cut your leg on something sharp and rusted. You wrap it in gauze and pretend it won't get infected. 2 days later, it does. Your mind starts to change. You flinch at birdsong. You freeze when the wind picks up. You crouch automatically every time a branch creaks. You've become part of the landscape, alert, twitchy, paranoid. Not because you're weak, but because you're paying attention. The ones who stop paying attention don't make it. The enemy wears camouflage, but they barely need it. The jungle hides them without help. They dig in, stay low, move silently. And they know the terrain better than you ever will. They speak in whispers, send scouts ahead. By the time you realise they're close, it's too late. A burst of gunfire. Someone screams. Someone falls. The rest dive into the brush, firing blind, hoping to hit something that isn't already gone. Sometimes they don't fire at all. Just watch. Just wait. Let the jungle do the damage. Let the weather, the rot, the bugs, and the fear wear you down until you're too weak to fight back. That's the worst kind of enemy. The one that knows patience. You try to tell yourself you're not scared, that you're trained, equipped, part of a unit. But fear is part of the air now. It lives in your lungs. You breathe it in with every damp inhale. You carry it in your pack, tucked next to your extra clip of ammo and your can of rancid hash. You keep it silent, but it's always there. It's because out here, in the middle of this overgrown, boiling, haunted jungle, the enemy isn't just men with rifles. It's everything. The ground, the trees, the plants, the heat, the fever, the snakes, the silence, the shadows, all of it. Every single thing is trying to kill you. And most of it doesn't even care if you see it coming. It doesn't rain in the jungle the way it does back home. There's no build-up. No dark clouds rolling in on the horizon. No breeze that picks up and makes you glance at the sky. The rain just starts. 1 second you're dry, or as dry as you ever are out here. And the next is like someone dumped a lake directly onto your head. It doesn't stop either. It goes on for hours, days. Sometimes you lose track and just assume this is life now. Wet, dripping, muddy, and mouldy. No umbrella? No poncho that actually works. Just you, your gear, and a cloud above you that never runs out of water. The sound is constant. Not peaceful. Not the kind you fall asleep to. It's loud. Sharp. Angry. Rain on metal. Rain on canvas. Rain on leaves the size of dinner plates. It smacks your helmet like fingers tapping out bad news. You hear it in your dreams. You hear it even when it's not raining, which isn't often. Your uniform never dries. Ever. You could hang it up, wring it out, leave it in the sun, if the sun existed. It doesn't. Not really. Just a dull glow behind the clouds that lets you guess what time it might be. Your clothes are wet when you sleep. Wet when you wake up. Wet when you march, when you eat, when you dig, when you squat over a latrine pit you barely had time to finish before the flood started. Your boots squish, loudly, with every step. Not water resistant, water hungry. They soak it in, hold it tight. Every morning you slide your foot in and feel that familiar, warm, slimy welcome. The socks you hung to dry are wetter than when you took them off. You wear them anyway. The rain changes everything. Trails turn into rivers. Foxholes fill up. Trenches collapse. You dig a position, spend hours reinforcing it, only to have it flood by morning. You try to bail it out with your helmet, with your mess tin, with your hands. It laughs at you and keeps rising. Eventually, you just sit in it, waist deep, shivering, cheeks puffed out, miserable. Fires are almost impossible. You try to keep your matches dry, store them in tins, seal them in wax paper. Still useless. The moment you need them, the paper's soggy and the heads are crumbling. You pile damp twigs together, try to spark them anyway. You fan it, blow on it, pray. You get smoke, maybe a little flicker. Then the next gust of rain comes down and smothers it like it never happened. You eat cold again. Tents leak, tarps collapse. The ropes stretch under the weight. The stakes pop out of the ground because the soil is now soup. You wake up in a puddle. Your pack's wet. Your spare clothes are wet. Even the things inside the things you thought were waterproof. Also wet. The rain finds a way. And then there's the smell. It's different when everything is wet. Mould rises from the ground in waves. The stink of old sweat mixed with new mildew. Mud that smells suspiciously like sewage. Your rifle rusts overnight. You clean it in the morning. By lunch, the rust is back. Your ammo pouches stink like rotten leather. You don't even check your rations. You just eat around the parts that taste like mildew. The rain isn't refreshing. It's not a break from the heat. It makes the heat worse. A damp heat. A clinging, suffocating humidity that makes your clothes heavier, your lungs tighter, your skin softer until it starts to peel. You can't breathe through it. It's like sweating through a raincoat you can't take off. Marching in the rain is hell. Every trail becomes a slide. Every route becomes a trap. You slip. Fall. Go face first into mud that smells like a combination of dead plant and dying animal. Your rifle hits the ground, your helmet shifts sideways, water runs down your collar and settles in your waistband. You stand back up and keep walking, because stopping means getting colder. Visibility disappears. Fog rolls in along with the rain. Not the nice kind. Thick, green-tinged mist that hides the man in front of you and makes the jungle feel like it goes on forever. You start seeing shapes that aren't there. A tree stump that looks like a crouching figure. A branch that looks like a rifle barrel. You aim, you lower the weapon. You keep walking. Your fingers wrinkle. Permanently. Not just pruny, wrinkled like paper that's been soaked and dried a dozen times. Cuts open up along your knuckles. Small ones that sting when you touch anything. You stop noticing. You wrap your hands anyway and pretend the tape is helping. At night, the rain feels louder. It hits the tarp like a drum. You try to sleep with your poncho wrapped around your chest, your rifle under your arm, and your knees pulled tight to keep the water from soaking your last dry pocket. Doesn't work. You wake up cold. Your feet are submerged. You sit up, cough, slap a mosquito, and lie back down. The rain keeps going. Sometimes it stops. Just for a minute, the silence is worse. Everyone looks around. No one speaks. Because when the rain stops, something else usually starts. Movement, gunfire, screams. And then the rain starts again, like it never left. Like it came back to wash the blood into the soil. You get trench foot even when there are no trenches. You get jungle rot even if you stay off the ground. Everything festers faster. A scratch becomes a sore. A sore becomes an infection, and the rain keeps dripping, one drop at a time, onto your face, into your eyes, down your back. You clench your teeth and take it, because there's no umbrella big enough. The worst is the boredom, when you're pinned down, waiting out a storm, stuck under a tarp with 6 other guys who all smell like soup and bad choices. You play cards with soggy paper. You read letters from home that are starting to smear. You stare into the mist and wonder if the rain ever stops. It doesn't. The medics say to stay dry. You laugh in their face. No one stays dry, not even the dead. You pass bodies buried in shallow holes, the rain washing soil off the edges until a boot is sticking out. Someone covers it again with a shovel. The water pools on top. You've stopped feeling it, honestly. The rain. It's not weather anymore. It's just the way things are. You wipe your face out of habit. Not to stay dry, just to see. You feel a drop slide down your spine and you don't even flinch. You wake up soaked and shrug, because the rain's not trying to drown you. It's trying to wear you down, slowly, one drop at a time, until you stop noticing, until you stop caring, until you accept that this is it now. This is home, and the sky will never be dry again. And maybe it won't. There are no good nights in the jungle, but some nights are worse. The kind where your skin feels like it's crawling, even when it isn't. The kind where the air is thick enough to drink, and the only sound is the high-pitched whine of something small and winged getting closer. You flinch, swat at the air miss. It lands. It bites. Another mosquito. Another donation to the insect population. No thank you note, no mercy. They're always there, always, in the mud, in the trees, in the tent, under your shirt. You kill one and 3 more take its place. They're not casual pests. They're military grade, aggressive, purpose-built. You can hear them before you see them. A tiny vibrating hum that becomes your constant background noise. It's not ambient, it's personal. Your skin is covered in bites. Always itchy. Always swollen. Some lake pus. Some turn dark red. You scratch until you bleed. Then you scratch more. Then you stop scratching because the scabs are worse. Your arms look like a battlefield. Your legs aren't any better. Even under your socks. Even under your sleeves. They find you. They always find you. You were issued repellent. A tiny tin of foul-smelling goop you were supposed to rub into your skin every few hours. It didn't work. Or maybe it did for the first few minutes, until you sweated it off, or until the rain washed it down your back and into your already infected waistband. You still have the tin. Mostly empty, mostly useless. It's now a container for cigarette butts and wet matches. Some guys try to sleep with netting, if they're lucky. Most of it is torn, full of holes. Hanging from branches with one hand while trying to keep your legs covered with the other. Doesn't matter. The mosquitoes find the openings. They always do. They go for your ankles, your wrists, your neck, anywhere the blood flows close to the skin. You wake up with new bites. Every single day. They say malaria is preventable. In theory, you get a pill. Take it every day. Quinine or atabrine, or something else that tastes like chalk and bile. You swallow it with warm canteen water, feel it sit in your stomach like a dead mouse, and hope that today it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You won't know until you wake up sweating, shivering, and puking into the nearest hole. When malaria hits, it doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door down and sets up shop behind your eyeballs. You wake up cold even though it's 90 degrees. Your teeth chatter. Your skin burns. You vomit once, twice. You don't keep track. Your body tries to sweat the fever out while your brain fills with static. You see things, hear things, people talking that aren't there, shadows moving that don't cast reflections. You lie on your back, soaked in your own stink, and hope someone notices. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're too busy coughing up their own symptoms to care. The medic gives you more pills, maybe a shot, maybe just water and a piece of cracker. There's no miracle cure out here. If the fever breaks, you're lucky. If it doesn't, they carry you out. If they can. Then there's dengue. They call it breakbone fever. Not because it breaks bones, but because it feels like it does. The pain is deep, down in your joints like someone poured molten metal into your knees and wrists. You lie there in the dirt, eyes open, hands curled, muscles locked, waiting for the waves of nausea and agony to subside. They don't. You can't eat. You can't think. You don't sleep because the pain is always there. You just lie there with your helmet over your face, listening to the mosquitoes buzzing around your ears, knowing that even now, even while your body is falling apart from one virus, you're being injected with the next one. They don't stop coming. Not ever. You walk through clouds of them. You kill 5 just walking from your foxhole to the latrine. They follow you in. You swat, slap, curse, sweat. It makes no difference. You're not a person to them. You're a source, a resource, a meal ticket. You are the buffet. At night, it's worse. Cooler air, more moisture. They love it. They gather like smoke around your head, your legs, your hands. You bury yourself in your poncho. Try to leave no skin exposed. You sweat so much under there, you soak your clothes again. When you emerge, your face is a pincushion. You rub mud on your cheeks. You cover your arms in soot from a half-dead fire. Anything. It doesn't matter. They still bite. You stop trying to avoid them. You just learn to live with them. The same way you learn to live with the heat, the stink, the sores, and the things that keep crawling into your boots. The mosquitoes are just part of it now. You swat one mid-bite and smear a streak of your own blood down your forearm. You wipe it off and keep digging. Some guys go mad from the itching. That's not an exaggeration. You see them scratch raw patches into their legs. You see them sitting in the mud, muttering to themselves, slapping at air that may or may not contain anything. One guy rubbed so much repellent on his face, he burned a rash into his own skin. His cheeks peeled for 2 days. The jungle loves mosquitoes. It breeds them like crops. Every puddle, every half-empty canteen, every divot in the earth becomes a nursery. You dump them out, step in them, fill them again just by walking away. You can't keep up. No one can. You dream of them. In your sleep you feel the prick of a bite, slap your own face, wake up in darkness and hear them humming. You curl up tighter. Try to cover your ears. Hope they go for someone else. They carry other things too. Japanese encephalitis, filariasis, yellow fever, if you're really lucky. But you stop keeping track. The only symptom that matters is whether or not you can keep walking. If you can walk, you're fit. If you can't, someone drags you to the medic and then forgets your name. No one comes out clean. Everyone's had it once. Some have had it twice. The jungle keeps score, but it never tells you the rules. All you know is that every bite brings you closer to another night of fever dreams, and the realization that your immune system is about as overworked as your rifle. You wonder what it's like to go a day without itching. A day without waking up, soaked in sweat, biting back bile, coughing into the dirt. You can't remember. You know you used to be healthy. But that was another version of you. That guy is long gone. Now you're the version that wakes up with blood-streaked socks, sunken eyes, and a heartbeat that skips sometimes. The version that still swats at mosquitoes out of habit. Even though you know there's no point, they're always coming, and you're always here. Because in the jungle you don't sleep, you simmer. Food is important. Back home, it anchors your day. Breakfast sets the tone. Lunch breaks the rhythm. Dinner means you're done, at least for a while. Out here, food doesn't signal anything. It just reminds you that you're still alive, and that's not always a comforting thought. You don't eat because you're hungry. Hunger left a while ago, packed up, and moved out. You eat because the human body needs calories, and if you don't keep fueling the machine, it eventually seizes up. The rations they give you were designed by people who believed in calories, but not in joy. What they call food is packaged in heavy cans, wrapped in waxy brown paper, or shoved into cardboard boxes that turn to mush if it so much as looks like rain, which of course it always does. The labels are vague. Words like meat unit, or loaf, or concentrate. They could be anything. They usually are. The crown jewel is the canned meat. Not the kind with recognisable parts. No bones, no skin, nothing that looks like it came from something once alive. This is grey paste, wet, dense, shaped like the inside of a boot. You peel back the lid and smell it. Or try to. The smell is faint, like old salt and grease filtered through despair. You dig in with your spoon. It resists. Not because it's firm, because it's reluctant. Sometimes it's spam, or something pretending to be. It tastes like nothing. A meat-flavoured ghost. You chew it until the chewing stops having any effect. Then you swallow. It lands in your stomach like wet concrete. Then come the biscuits, not the fluffy kind, not the kind you'd eat with butter. These are hard, dry, and insultingly square. They come 4 to a pack, each one exactly the same size and density as a paving stone. You bite into one and it crumbles into sawdust. Your mouth dries instantly. You chew anyway because there's nothing else. There's a tiny smear of jam, if you're lucky. It's more of a suggestion than a flavour. Occasionally the biscuits come with extra protein. Worms, real ones, curled up and waiting. You try not to look. You tap the biscuit on your boot and see what falls out. Sometimes they're dead. Sometimes they're not. You pick them out, eat the rest. No one comments. You've all done it. There's powdered drink mix too. One flavour, orange. Not real orange, just orange-like. It comes in a pouch with instructions you can't read anymore because they melted into the packaging. You pour the powder into your canteen cup, add water, stir with your knife, and end up with a gritty chemical brew that tastes like cough syrup mixed with despair. You drink it anyway. It covers the taste of everything else. For about 3 seconds. There's no salt. You miss salt. You dream about salt. You fantasize about the crinkle of a chip bag, the coarse texture of a pretzel. Anything with crunch. Instead you get mush. Warm mush. Cold mush. Grey mush. Sometimes beige. Candy shows up now and then. Tootsie Rolls. Charms. Little sugary lifelines meant to boost morale. You savour them like gold. Hide them in your pack. Eat them slow, 1 lick at a time. Then the ants find them. Then you eat them anyway. There's coffee, technically. A packet of ground so old they taste like ash and acid. You boil water in your helmet, pour in the powder, stir with a stick, and drink it too hot just to feel something. It burns your tongue. Doesn't matter. You'll do it again tomorrow. Some guys experiment. They mix rations. canned meat with biscuit crumbs, instant coffee sprinkled over jam for a bittersweet mess that might wake you up. One guy tried heating up his meal with a lighter, set his can on fire. Another guy just started eating everything cold, straight from the can, like a raccoon with PTSD. No one judged him. He was ahead of the curve. Once in a while, someone gets a package from home. Cookies, candy, a piece of fruit, a slice of real bread. It's a miracle. Then the rain gets in, or the ants, or mould. You take one bite before tossing the rest into the fire, pretending it didn't hurt. It always does. Water is another issue. You can't just drink from streams. That's a fast ticket to dysentery. You carry purification tablets. They taste like pool cleaner. You drink anyway. You're not picky. Your canteen is warm. Your cup is filthy. And everything smells faintly like old rags. You stop caring. There's powdered milk. You laugh when you see it. Then you try to mix it. It clumps instantly, sticks to the sides of the cup. You drink it lumpy and hate yourself a little more. It coats your tongue like plaster. You chew the last bits. You never try again. Some rations come with toilet paper. 2 squares. A cruel joke. You save them anyway. They're worth more than cigarettes out here. You use them for notes, fire starters, or actual toilet emergencies if you're feeling lucky. Most of the time, you just improvise. You talk about food all the time. What you miss. What you'd eat first if you got home tomorrow. Burgers. Pizza. Fresh fruit. Anything cold. Anything crisp. You describe the smell of a diner. The feeling of a cold glass in your hand. The crunch of lettuce. The fizz of soda. You know it won't happen soon, but talking helps. A little. Mealtime isn't social. It's survival. You sit on a log, chew silently, and stare at the ground. No one looks at each other. No one complains out loud. You just eat, finish, and shove the empty can into your pack. The flies gather. The ants swarm. You move on. You eat fast. Because the longer you wait, the harder it is. Your stomach's never quite right. You're not hungry. You're not full. You're just always on the edge of something. Nausea, exhaustion, another kind of pain. Food keeps you upright. That's all it does. And even then, it sometimes turns on you. Bad cans slip through. You open one and gag. The meat is green, or brown in the wrong way. The smell makes your eyes water. You toss it and try another. If there isn't one, you go without. Better that than spending the night puking behind a tree, clutching your gut and wondering if your appendix is giving up, or just your sense of dignity. You wonder how the quartermasters sleep at night. What kind of person signs off on this menu? You imagine a man in a clean office, sipping black coffee and checking boxes on a clipboard. You fantasize about shoving a can of meat unit number 4 into his mouth. You smile. Then you burp. And the taste brings you back. It's not that you hate food now. It's that you don't trust it. It's not nourishment. It's fuel. It's just one more thing that might hurt you if you let your guard down. So you chew slow. You swallow hard. You don't think about it too long. And you try not to remember what real food ever tasted like. Mail call is supposed to be a good thing. A lifeline. A thread connecting you to somewhere else. Anywhere else. You imagine someone saying your name, handing you a letter. And for a minute, you're not here. Not in the mud, not in the rot, not in the choking heat. Just somewhere else. Somewhere dry. But that's not how it happens. Out here, mail arrives in batches. Not regular, not reliable. When it comes in soggy bundles. Smashed under crates of ammunition, or soaked through in a crate that probably fell off a supply plane 2 weeks ago. The paper is crumpled, ink runs, envelopes are stuck together. You peel them apart like museum artifacts, careful not to rip what's left of your outside world. Most of the letters are dated, 2 months old, sometimes 3, occasionally longer. You know before you even open them that whatever's inside is already outdated. People write with hope, but the jungle doesn't care about hope. And the calendar has moved on. You sit on a rock or lean against your pack and open the envelope, slowly. You read the first few lines, and for a moment you remember how people talk when they're not trying to stay alive. Small talk, complaints about traffic, mentions of the neighbour's dog. Your little brother failed his math test. Someone sent cookies, but you won't get them. They're probably crumbs by now. Mouldy crumbs. If they even made it past customs. Then you read further, and the words shift. Someone's sick. Someone's been in an accident. Someone passed away last month. A friend from school. Your cousin. Your mum's friend from church. The names mean something. Or they did. You blink. You reread. You fold the paper and unfold it again. Like that'll change the sentence. Sometimes it's not just one. Sometimes it's 2 letters in the same batch. One saying someone's sick. Another saying they didn't make it. Both from weeks ago. Both talking about events that have already happened. You're not even getting news anymore. You're getting history. And the worst part is that no one here reacts. Because everyone's had one of those letters. Or 5. You see the guys who got bad ones. They don't cry. Not right away. They fold the paper neatly, tuck it into their shirt pocket, sit still for a while. Some smoke. Some walk. One guy dug a hole and buried his letter under a tree. Didn't say why. Didn't mark the spot. Just did it. Then walked away like nothing happened. The rest of you pretend not to notice. There are photos too. When they survive. Blurry black and white shots of people smiling in kitchens or standing on porches. Sometimes they're bent. Sometimes they're torn. You stare at them until your eyes blur. That's what normal looked like. Someone holding a baby. A plate of food on a table. A Christmas tree. You flip the photo over. There's writing on the back. A date. A short message. Miss you. Stay safe. Come home soon. You read it again and again until the words feel like someone else's handwriting, and then you fold it and put it in your pocket, so you can ruin it with sweat later. But you keep it anyway, because you don't have anything else. Not every letter is bad. Some are cheerful. Too cheerful. They read like no one told them where you are, like they don't know what's going on. They ask questions you can't answer. How's the weather? Have you made any friends? When will you be home? You don't answer. Not because you don't want to, but because the forms are gone. The envelopes are wet. The pencil broke. Or maybe you just don't know what to say. What do you write when you've been sleeping in mud for a week? Haven't eaten anything that didn't come from a dented can, and the guy next to you was coughing blood this morning? You used to write back. Short notes, jokes, stories. You'd describe the view, the heat, the boredom. Now you just hold the pencil and stare at the page. You write, I'm okay, even when you're not. Especially when you're not. Because if you tell the truth, someone back home won't sleep for a week. Sometimes the letters come for someone who isn't here anymore. They still read the names. You still hear them. The name of the guy who bled out in a foxhole 4 weeks ago. The one who stepped on a mine during a patrol. The one who coughed himself to death with a fever no one could stop. His letter still shows up, folded and clean, like he's going to open it and laugh. You watch someone else take it, usually a friend. They hold it, look down at it for a second, then slide it into their pack without a word. Later, you might see them reading it alone. You don't ask what it says. It's not yours to know. The worst are the letters from mothers. You can spot them instantly. The way they start, the looped handwriting, the quiet optimism. We're all so proud of you. Everyone at church is praying. I made your favourite stew last night. You read it slowly, carefully, like it's made of glass. Sometimes you wonder if they knew when they were writing, if the postmark was already too late, if the letter crossed paths with a telegram. You hope not. Some letters smell like home. Faintly, perfume, cigarette smoke, flower, something real, something not jungle. You hold the page to your nose and breathe in. It lasts a second. Then it's gone. Everything smells like mildew again. Eventually you stop expecting anything new. Mail call comes and you don't look up. If something shows up, you take it. If it doesn't, you shrug. You tell yourself it's fine. Maybe they ran out of paper. Maybe the plane got lost. Maybe nothing's wrong, and it just didn't get here yet. But you know better. The jungle slows everything down. Even memory. Even grief. Someone dies, and you don't hear about it until a month later. By then you've changed. They've changed. The letter feels like a message from a world that doesn't exist anymore. You keep the ones that matter. You tuck them into your helmet liner, your ammo pouch, under your shirt. They warp from sweat. The ink fades, but you still have them. Because when everything else rots or rusts or falls apart, a few wrinkled pages are all you've got. And when the day ends and you're sitting under your tarp, listening to rain hit your mess tin and mosquitoes buzz your ears, you take one out. Not because you expect good news, just because it reminds you someone once knew your name without shouting it across a jungle. There's no word for morale out here that doesn't sound like a joke. Technically, it still exists. Someone somewhere is probably tracking it with a clipboard, assigning numbers to moods, like your sanity's a math problem. But no one in this jungle believes in morale anymore. Not really. Not the kind you can measure. You just get through the day without completely breaking, and that counts as a win. You wake up tired. You go to sleep exhausted. Not physically, though that too, but in your head. Like your brain's been running laps through wet concrete. No dreams. Or maybe too many. Either way, you never feel rested. There's always that pressure behind your eyes. That fog in your thoughts. That ache in your spine that isn't just from the mud. You think about home, and sometimes it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. Because home isn't frozen in time like you want it to be. People are moving on. The letters prove it. They talk about school, about babies being born, jobs changing, stores opening, baseball scores. Meanwhile, you haven't changed your shirt in 5 days and can't remember what your own voice sounds like when it's not whispering. You cry. Quietly. Usually after midnight, when the jungle noises dip low and there's no one else awake to see you. You don't sob. That takes too much energy. It's more like leaking. Your eyes sting. Your throat tightens. And you sit there in your hole pretending you're just wiping away sweat. Everyone knows. No one says anything. The thing is, you don't need a reason. You just cry. Because the ground hasn't been dry in 3 weeks. Because the guy next to you got evac'd and no one said why. Because you can't eat another can of meat without gagging. Because you stepped in something soft and you still don't know if it was mud or something worse. Sometimes you start laughing instead. That kind of laugh where your shoulders shake, but your mouth doesn't open. You hear something stupid. A fart, a misplaced word, a boot getting stuck, and it cracks you. The kind of broken, half-mad laugh that comes out sideways, like steam from a cracked pipe. You don't stop until someone else tells you to. Even then, it lingers. You've seen guys snap, not loudly, not with drama, just quietly come apart. They go silent. Or too talkative. They repeat things. They forget where they are. You ask them a question and they blink like they're boot camp recruits again. Some shake. All the time. One guy stood up mid-patrol, said he needed to get on the bus. There's no bus. He just walked into the trees until someone dragged him back. There's no help. Not real help. No therapist in a tent with a clipboard. Just a medic with aspirin and a 1,000-yard stare. You can try to talk, but the words don't land right. You say I feel off, and they say everyone does. You say I can't sleep, and they say neither can we. You say nothing, and they nod like that's the right answer. Camaraderie helps. A little. You and the other guys share jokes, curses, smokes, and the kind of dark humour that will get you banned from Thanksgiving back home. You talk about the stupid stuff. The food, the bugs, the guy who snored so loud last night a bird flew off in panic. You laugh because not laughing means thinking, and thinking is dangerous. You make bets on the weather, on who will get mail, on who will throw up next from the rations. Nothing big, just enough to pass the hours. It doesn't mean you're okay, it just means you're functional. That's good enough. Some try to write it down. Keep journals. Scraps of paper with half thoughts, half sentences. Most of it's unreadable. Rain smears the ink. The paper disintegrates. But it feels like control. Like if you write it, it can't own you. It's a lie, but it works for a while. You talk to yourself. Out loud, in your head. Doesn't matter. You repeat routines. Inventory your pack. Count your bullets. Tap your helmet twice before lying down. Not superstition, ritual. Tiny, pointless things that feel like anchors. You cling to them. Music doesn't exist here. Radios don't work well. Batteries are scarce. If someone hums, you all stop and listen. Not because it's good, just because it's different. One guy sang a half-remembered song from back home once. Everyone sat still for 10 full minutes. No one spoke. He didn't do it again. You think about the future sometimes, not in detail. You stopped making plans a while ago, but vague things. A shower, a bed, socks that don't feel like sponges. You picture yourself back in your old room, sitting, doing nothing, just being somewhere quiet, without gunfire, without rain, without this constant gnawing awareness that at any moment everything could fall apart. But mostly, you stay in the now, because thinking too far ahead feels like gambling. You don't want to imagine getting home and then never getting the chance. It's easier to focus on the next meal, the next patrol, the next time you can sit for 10 whole minutes and not have to move. You wonder what you'll be like afterward. If there is an afterward. If you'll laugh at the same things. If you'll ever feel clean again. If you'll go home and smell mildew when it rains and freeze up without knowing why. You probably will. And through it all you cry, quietly, at night, when you think no one hears you. But they do, because they're crying too. It doesn't start the way movies make it seem. No slow motion rise to chaos. No swelling music. Just a sound. Maybe a pop. A crack. Something that doesn't belong. Then another. Then everything happens all at once, and you forget what breathing feels like. The jungle doesn't give you open fields or long lines. It gives you 10 feet of vision and something moving just beyond it. You can't see shapes, just flickers. Colour, motion, a shadow that wasn't there before. Your body reacts before your brain catches up. You drop, aim, and fire. Probably at nothing. You don't care. You're not thinking about targets. You're thinking about staying alive. Your rifle kicks. The sound slaps your ears. No earplugs, no warning. 1 second of thunder, then ringing. You open your mouth because someone said that helps. It doesn't. You fire again. The bolt sticks. You clear it. Fire again. The recoil makes your shoulder throb. Doesn't matter. Someone to your left is shouting. You can't hear them. You just see their mouth move and their arm point. You follow their line of sight. Nothing but vines and smoke. Someone throws a grenade. You see it arc up, disappear. Then the boom comes from somewhere too close. Leaves rain down. Mud splashes your face. Your ears scream. There's no front line, no rear, just chaos. You don't know where anyone is. You yell a name and don't hear the answer. You crouch behind a tree that's already splintered from gunfire and hope it doesn't matter. Your boots are sinking into something soft. You don't want to know what it is. The Japanese soldiers don't shout. They don't scream. They're just there. And then they're not. Their fire comes fast, bursts from angles that shouldn't be possible. You fire back blind. You think you see one go down. You're not sure. You don't count. Someone next to you goes quiet. Too quiet. You look. He's slumped. Open-mouthed. One eye closed, the other staring at nothing. Blood in the dirt. You almost reach for him. You don't. Not now. You keep firing. Later, maybe. If there is a later. You reload by touch. Your fingers shake. The clip doesn't want to fit. You force it. The ping of the spent one echoes like a taunt. You duck again. A burst of fire hits a tree 2 feet above your head. Bark explodes into your hair. You don't flinch anymore. There's no room for flinching. You smell everything. Gunpowder, sweat, burnt leaves, someone's blood. The air turns thick with smoke and humidity. You try to breathe through it. It sticks to your teeth. You cough. Your helmet shifts. You slap it back into place. Combat doesn't feel like war. It feels like noise. Noise and fear and movement. You crawl forward or backward. You're not sure which. You step over someone's pack. Over someone's leg. Over someone, then silence, sudden, terrifying. You freeze, rifle aimed at nothing. Breathing like you're drowning. You listen. Just the jungle again. Birds, insects, wind. A branch creaks, and you nearly fire at it. You don't. You wait. That's when you hear it. Screaming. Not the enemy. One of yours, wounded. Bad. You can't see him. You want to move, but you don't know where it's coming from. Someone else gets there first. The screaming stops. You don't ask why. You push forward, through brush that grabs at your legs. You hear movement to your right. You pivot, aim. It's one of your guys. His helmet's gone. His face is streaked with mud and blood and panic. You nod. He nods back. You keep going. The firefight starts again. No warning. Just bullets snapping past your head like angry insects. You hit the ground hard, elbow slamming into a root. You fire from your back. Someone else goes down. You can't tell who. Everything is heat and noise. You lose your sense of direction. You follow shadows, muzzle flashes, your gut. You stop thinking about home, about food, about anything except not dying in this moment. Your rifle jams again. You swear without making a sound. Clear it, reload, keep firing. Eventually it stops. Again, no ending, no signal, just less noise. The jungle doesn't celebrate, it just goes back to buzzing. Like nothing happened. Like it didn't just eat a few more bodies. You sit up, breathing hard, hands shaking. You look around. Bodies. Trees torn up. Gear scattered like toys dropped in a tantrum. Someone limps past, dragging a belt of ammo. You wipe your face and realise it's blood. Not yours. Maybe. You check your limbs. Still there? You wiggle your toes. Your boots squish. Still alive. You feel sick. Someone says something about moving. You nod. You stand. Your legs feel wrong. Heavy. Numb. You step over someone again. This time, slower. More careful. No one cheers. There's nothing to cheer for. You don't know if you won. You don't care. You're here. For now. Later, when it's dark and everyone's pretending to sleep, you'll think about it again. The noise, the flashes, the shape that moved in the trees. The one you didn't shoot. Or maybe you did. You don't know. You'll never know. You'll try to replay it in your head, but it won't stay still. It'll flicker and jump. Pieces missing. Pieces you wish were missing. And the next time it starts, you'll know before the first shot even lands, because the trees will shift. And something in your body will tighten, like it's remembering for you. Because once the jungle screams, you never forget the sound. Night in the jungle isn't quiet. It's never quiet. It just gets louder in different ways. The birds shut up. The frogs start screaming. The trees make noises you swear sound like voices. And somewhere out there, something is always moving. You hear it. You don't see it. That's what makes it worse. Patrol orders come in just before dark. Of course. They always do. You don't volunteer. No one does. You get picked. A list goes up, and your name's on it. You sigh. You nod. You check your gear like it matters. The sun goes down fast out here. 1 minute it's glowing through the canopy, and the next it's gone, like someone flipped a switch. What's left is black. Not nighttime black, not dim. Full black. The kind where your hand disappears in front of your face. You click on your flashlight for 1 second and remember why that's a mistake. The beam lights up everything around you, and you realise how exposed you are. So you turn it off. You'd rather trip than be seen. You don't talk on patrol. Not unless you have to. Voices carry, even whispers. So you gesture. Signals. Taps on the shoulder. A silent point. Everyone's already twitchy. No one wants to hear anything that might be a word. The jungle at night doesn't sleep. It shifts. Vines look like snakes. Snakes look like vines. Something slivers near your boot and you pretend you didn't feel it. You've got bigger problems. You step carefully, slowly, heel to toe. Heel to. The mud still sucks at your feet, still pulls at your soles like it's hungry. You push through it. Your gear rattles, no matter how tightly it's strapped. Water drips down your neck. A branch smacks your face. You hold in a curse. The guy in front of you stops. You stop. Everyone behind you stops. You listen. Nothing. Then something. A crack. Not far. Could be a branch. Could be someone stepping. Could be nothing at all. You wait. Muscles clenched. Heart pounding in your throat. And then nothing. Just frogs again. You move on. Your eyes start playing tricks. Every shape looks wrong. You see a helmet. It's a stump. You see a rifle barrel. It's a stick. You blink hard. Keep moving. Your legs are shaking and not from the cold. You're not cold. You're soaked in sweat. But you're still shaking. You cross a stream. The water's waist high. You step carefully. The guy behind you stumbles and curses under his breath. You all freeze. Wait. Nothing. Move again. The water's colder than you expect. You feel something brush against your leg. You don't look down. On the far side, you pause. You regroup. Check positions. Look for the shapes of the guys next to you. You can't see their faces. Only the dull outlines of helmets. One guy raises a fist. Stop. Everyone drops low. You hold your breath. You hear it too. Breathing. Not yours. Not theirs. Something heavier. Slower. You listen harder. It stops. You strain. Nothing. Just jungle noises again. You don't move for 5 minutes. Maybe longer. Eventually you crawl forward, rifle up, every finger tight on the grip. Your mouth is dry. You didn't think that was possible out here, but it is. You swallow nothing. Your tongue feels like it's wrapped in cloth. You want to drink, but don't dare. You don't want to make noise. Not even the sound of water. Someone stumbles again. A louder crash this time. A vine or a root or just bad luck. Everyone freezes again. You hear gunfire in your memory, even though it doesn't come. You wait, again, nothing. You realise how much time has passed. You've barely moved 100 yards, maybe less. You check your watch. You can't see it. You feel it on your wrist but don't want to shine a light. You just guess. 2 hours, maybe 3. Time doesn't pass normally in the dark. It stretches out, wraps around you. Makes you feel like you've been walking in circles. You probably have. The leeches are out now. You can feel them. Tiny movements on your skin. One under your collar. Another working its way into your sock. You swat without thinking. Then regret it. Too loud. But you can't help it. You keep walking. Your shoulder hurts. Your back aches. Every sound makes you jump. Every shadow makes you aim. You haven't fired a shot, and you're more tired than after a firefight. This is a different kind of tired, not just physical. It's deep, bone deep, like your body wants to shut off. Something snaps behind you. Everyone drops flat. You hold your breath again. You hear rustling, a slow footstep, then nothing. Someone behind you shifts. A finger on your boot, the signal to move. You do, slowly, like every step might be your last. You reach the objective, whatever that means. Maybe it's a trail. Maybe it's a listening post. Maybe it's just a patch of dirt you're told to stare at for 3 hours. So you do. You lie on your belly in the mud, your face 3 inches from a root. You listen. You wait. You don't blink unless you have to. Time stops meaning anything. You count heartbeats. You think about how heavy your rifle feels. You think about how loud the bugs are. You think about home. Then you stop thinking. Something breathes next to you. You don't look. You don't move. You feel the breath. Warm. Close. You grip your weapon tighter. Your skin goes cold. Then it's gone. You tell yourself it was wind, even though there is no wind. Eventually, someone taps your leg. Time to go. You pull yourself out of the mud. Your legs cramp. You almost fall. You keep moving, slowly, back the way you came. No one speaks. Everyone's a silhouette again. The way back feels longer. You see new shadows, hear new noises. You're sure you're being followed. You check behind you every 10 steps. You don't see anything. That doesn't make you feel better. You make it back to camp. Or whatever counts as camp. A tarp, a trench, a hole in the ground. You don't speak. You just sit. You don't even bother scraping off the mud. You drink from your canteen. You don't care if it tastes like metal. You lie down on something soft. It squishes. You close your eyes. You feel something crawl across your arm. You flick it off. And you try to sleep. Because the sun's coming back. And you have to do this again tomorrow. You don't think about getting hit. You think about not getting hit. You think about keeping your head down, your body low, your luck steady. But eventually, someone's luck runs out. Maybe yours. Maybe the guy next to you. Either way, it happens fast. A crack, a pop, a pressure in your side. You're not sure if it's real until you feel the warmth. Blood, thick, slow, sticky. You lift your hand and it's dark and wet, and suddenly everything around you starts spinning just a little. You don't scream. That comes later. Maybe. Or maybe you don't feel it at first. Just heat. Then the dull throb. Then the burning. You look down and something's wrong. Bent. Open. Leaking. You press a hand to it and wonder if it's bad. If it's bad enough to stop fighting. Usually it is. Someone yells for a medic. Always just, medic! Nothing more. Like the title is a spell that will fix everything. It isn't. He comes running anyway. Always too fast and too late. Drops next to you, yanks off your gear, pulls at your shirt with dirty hands. The bandage he uses came from the same wet pack he's been carrying for 3 weeks. It smells like mildew and alcohol. Mostly mildew. If you're lucky, he finds the wound, packs it with gauze, and wraps it with a pressure bandage. Then tells you to shut up and hold still. If you're not lucky, he looks at the hole, curses under his breath, and does something drastic. A tourniquet, a jab of morphine, maybe reaches for the pliers. You've never prayed harder than when you saw the pliers. They're not clean, they're not surgical. They're just the best tool for the job when the job involves removing metal from inside a person. You bite down on a strap, or your sleeve, or your tongue. Doesn't matter. It still hurts. He digs. You scream. He says hold still. You scream louder. Sometimes he gets it out. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just packs the wound and says, if you make it to morning, they'll take you back. You nod like that means anything. Getting out means someone has to carry you. On a stretcher. Through the same mud you came in on. Over the same roots. While bullets fly overhead or leeches crawl up your leg. You bounce with every step. You grit your teeth. You bleed through the bandage. The stretcher sags. The guys holding it curse your weight. The field hospital isn't a hospital. It's a tent. Or just a tarp. Or a clearing someone declared medical property. There's a guy in a white apron who hasn't slept in a week. His hands shake. His tools are cleanish, laid out on a crate, half rusted. Most aren't designed for surgery. He uses them anyway. If you're stable, you wait. If you're not, they cut your clothes off and get to work. No privacy, no anaesthesia, unless they have it. Sometimes it's morphine. Sometimes it's whiskey. Sometimes it's just biting something until your teeth crack. They don't use scalpels if they don't have to. They cut with knives, with scissors. They clamp vessels with things that look like garage tools. They sew you up with thick thread, knot it like they're tying a boat line, and tell you not to move. You move anyway. You can't help it. Infection is the real killer. The wound might be clean for 5 minutes, then it gets damp, dirty, and full of jungle air. The flies arrive first, then the fever. Your skin gets hot. Your vision blurs. You start to shake. Someone fans you with a piece of cardboard. Someone else gives you another shot. You hope it's morphine. Might just be water. They try to keep it sterile, but there's no such thing here. Everything's wet. Everything's used. You see bloody bandages hanging from trees like warning flags. You see syringes rinsed in canteen water. You see a guy lose a finger, then a hand, then the arm. No one says the word gangrene, but they all know. The worst part isn't the pain, it's the weight. You sit there, patched together, wrapped like a mummy, and stare at the canopy. You think about walking, about going home, about whether your leg's still under the blanket. You don't want to check. You hear other guys moaning, some louder, some quieter. One guy hums, a tune you recognise but can't place. He doesn't stop. You wish he would, then you wish he wouldn't. If it's bad enough, they fly you out, strap you into a plane with 24 others who are just as broken. You don't ask names, you don't ask what happened. You just lie there, watching the ceiling, and wondering if they'll feed you something better wherever you land. If it's not bad enough, they tape you up and send you back. That's the real horror, when they say you're good enough to fight again. Even though you're missing something, blood, a finger, some part of your brain, you stand, you limp, you pick up your rifle and pretend it doesn't hurt to breathe. You tell yourself it's healing. You don't believe it. And later, when the rain comes again and you're sitting under a tarp, sweating through another round of fever, you wonder how many more pieces you can afford to lose before they stop calling it a recovery. The answer is probably more than you think. You expect death to come with warning, maybe a scream, maybe a slow collapse in someone's arms, a dramatic pause, a final word, something that marks it. But out here, death doesn't work like that. It doesn't wait for the right moment. It doesn't give speeches. Most of the time, it just happens, and no one notices right away. Sometimes it's fast. A shot, a mine, a fall. A sound you hear and then don't hear again. One guy was here, now he's not. He stepped somewhere wrong. He peeked over something he shouldn't have. You don't even get time to look. Someone else says his name just to be sure, and when there's no answer, that's it. They move on. Other times it's slow. A fever that gets worse. A cut that gets infected. A cough that never stops. You watch someone shrink inside their clothes, sweat through their blanket, drift in and out until one night they just stop moving. You check in the morning. You already know. No one has the energy for ceremony. No chaplain. No final rites. You say a name? Maybe. You cover the body with a poncho. You mark the spot if you can. You try not to think about whether the jungle will move it, reclaim it, swallow it like everything else. Sometimes you can't even bury them properly. The ground is too hard, or too wet, or you're under fire. You pile some dirt, some leaves, a rock if you're lucky. That's all. A shallow grave, maybe. A memory that will fade even faster than the marker. Later, the jungle will take care of the rest. Roots move. Water shifts. Bones get scattered. Nature doesn't care what you were. You're just more material now. Dog tags help. If they're still there. If they weren't blown off or lost. If someone remembered to check. You find them tangled in vines or clutched in someone's hand. You pull them free. You keep them. Maybe they make it back. Maybe not. One guy went missing for days. Last seen on patrol. Never came back. No noise, no shot, no scream. Just gone. They found his boot 2 weeks later. Nothing else. No one talked about it. You don't have the energy to wonder what happened. The jungle keeps things. Sometimes people. You get numb to it. You have to. You stop asking who got hit. You stop watching the stretcher go past. You stop remembering names unless they sleep next to you. Even then, you don't get too close. No one does. You joke, sure, you laugh. But you don't say much. Because the fewer connections you make, the fewer you have to break. The new guys take it hard. They always do. First body they see, they flinch. Ask questions. Look too long. After a few weeks, they stop reacting. It doesn't mean they're fine. It means they've adapted, like everyone else. You think about what your own end might look like. You wonder if it'll hurt, if you'll know, if it'll be quick or slow, or one of those things where someone finds you slumped over in the mud with your canteen still in your hand. You wonder who will care, if anyone will even know it was you. There's no list posted, no roll call where they read names in reverent silence. You just stop seeing someone. You realise it's been a while since you heard his laugh, since you saw his gear leaning against a tree. You ask quietly. They say he didn't make it. You nod. You keep eating. You keep breathing. Death doesn't mean what it used to. It's not noble. It's not glorious. It's not even dramatic. It's just a thing that happens. A hole in the group. A poncho that's not being worn anymore. The jungle makes sure it's always messy, never clean. Bodies bloat in the heat. They smell within hours. You cover your face and keep digging. You pretend it's not personal. Sometimes you don't even look at the face. It's easier that way. Flies come fast. So do ants. The earth is wet and full of things that want to eat what's left. You stop being shocked by it. You get practical. Quick, clean, back to camp. Report the loss. Get the gear. Move on. The worst part isn't seeing it. It's knowing you'll be forgotten just as easily. You're not famous. You're not high rank. You're just another line in a book somewhere. If the paperwork gets filled out right, if someone finds your tags, if the note makes it to the rear, if not, you're just gone. A name someone will read months later and wonder about. Maybe. So you do what everyone does. You keep moving. Keep your head down. Keep breathing. Because out here, death isn't the end. It's just another part of the environment, like the mud, or the heat, or the constant hum of insects. You don't fight it. You don't challenge it. You just try to make it through one more night. You make it out. Not all at once. Not with a trumpet or a parade. You just wake up one morning and someone tells you your rotation's up. There's a list with your name on it and a plane that might leave this week. Might not. Either way, you start packing. There's not much to take. A photo, bent and damp. A couple of letters. A knife you don't remember acquiring. A rusted mess kit. A pair of socks you've washed so many times they look like linen. You leave the rest. The poncho, the tarp, the jungle rock gear that smells like something died in it. It's not worth carrying. The flight back is quieter than you thought it'd be. No one cheers. No one talks. You sit shoulder to shoulder with men who look like you. Hollow eyes, stained skin, a twitch in their fingers that never goes away. You try to sleep. You can't. You chew on a stick of gum someone handed you, and wonder how long it's been since you tasted something sweet. Landing doesn't feel like arriving. It feels like a pause. You step onto dry pavement, and your boots feel wrong. Your skin itches in clean air. You squint at the sun, and realise you forgot how bright it can be when it's not filtered through trees and smoke. They debrief you, briefly. Ask how you're feeling. You say fine. They nod. Stamp some papers. You get a check. A thank you. A handshake from someone who's never been shot at. Then you're on a bus or a train or just walking down a street in a town that never knew what you went through. People look at you like they're not sure if they should say something. You don't want them to. They say welcome home and you say thanks. And it feels like a lie on both sides. Your house is smaller than you remember. Or maybe you're bigger. Not taller. Just heavier with things no one can see. You sit on your own bed and feel strange. The mattress is soft. Too soft. You can't sleep on it. You end up on the floor. Your family tries. They smile too hard. They say you look good. You don't. You haven't looked good in months. They ask if you're okay. You say you are. You aren't. They want stories. You don't have any they'd want to hear. You get a job, maybe. Something slow. Something where your hands do more work than your brain. You nod when people talk. You laugh when it seems right. But you're not really there. You're somewhere else. Somewhere hot and green and buzzing. A door slams and you duck. A car backfires and your stomach drops. You forget where you are for a second, or a minute, or an hour. You wake up sweating. Still. You wake up choking. Still. You sleep with the light on. Or not at all. You hear rain and your body tenses. You see mud and your boots move faster. You smell mildew and something in your chest tightens. You're not crazy. You're adjusted. That's what they say. Combat stress. Post-deployment symptoms. Words that sound clean, neat. Nothing about them feels that way. You see other vets, at bars, in line at the post office, at appointments you don't want to talk about. You nod at each other. That's it. No handshake, no stories. Just a look that says, yeah, me too. Some of them aren't doing great. You see it in their eyes, in their shoulders. Some disappear. You hear about it later. A name, a headline, a funeral no one mentions. You flinch. You don't cry. You don't ask why. You carry things. Invisible things. The smell of burnt rubber. The weight of a rifle. The sound of breathing that wasn't yours. You remember the names of guys who didn't make it, even though you never said their names out loud. You see them sometimes. In crowds. In mirrors. In your dreams. You tell yourself it's over. But it isn't. Not really. You're not fighting anymore, but the war didn't leave with your uniform. It stayed. Moved in. Unpacked its things. Found a seat in the back of your mind and refused to leave. You try to explain it once. To someone who means well. You say, it was rough. They say, but you made it back. Like that settles anything. You stop explaining. You live. You go on. You drink your coffee. Pay your bills. Laugh when you can. Some days are better. Some nights don't come with sweat or shaking. You learn how to function. How to look normal. You're not the same, but you know how to pretend. The jungle doesn't leave you. Not really. It just gets quieter. It becomes something you carry. A place behind your eyes. A feeling in your gut. A shadow you can't explain. But you keep walking. Because that's what you do. You made it out. Whatever that means. You made it to the end. Or maybe you fell asleep somewhere back in the mud. Somewhere between the jungle rations and the screaming trees. Either way, you're here now. That war didn't have clean endings. Neither does this. Just a long walk back through memories you didn't ask for, from a place you never wanted to be. Thanks for listening. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. That's okay. Good night. Or try, at least,